Hey everybody, today Rahdo Talks for episode 57 of the podcast. And folks, we're in a new year and I think it's time for a little bit of a change to the podcast because, well, up until now, the standard format is a 3-act structure, first games of interest, then top 10 revisits, and then finally Q&A. And here's the thing. There's a few different separate threads that are coming together to warrant these changes. One, of course, the podcast, as it goes on, is getting more and more popular, which means more and more questions come in every month, and that's fantastic. Thank you, as always. Send questions to questions@rahdo.com. Send in good ones, because it's my favorite part of the show. Quite frankly, answering questions from you all in this podcast format with Jen and without is the favorite thing I do in all of Rahdo Runs Through. I really enjoy it. So please, keep them coming. The thing is, more and more of them are coming, and more and more of the podcast running time is getting devoted to that. And I love it, both because I enjoy it and because it requires less research and prep work. I just get the emails, I put them in directories, and then I read them and answer them because I like spontaneity. I don't want to sound pre-scripted or anything like that. And I like to surprise Jen with questions and all the rest of it. So it's kind of my thing. It's kind of like how I'm doing things. So those other two sections, the games of interest and the top 10s. Here's the deal. The games of interest that I do every month is based on my ongoing games of interest geek list, which when I started working on one for the year 2020, and I saw how much time it was going to take me just to get it going, I realized, after doing a little bit of math, I probably spend anywhere from 200 to 300 hours a year maintaining that geek list by reading about literally every single game that gets listed on Boardgame Geek. And this, we're talking thousands and thousands of games that I have to go and look up and try to determine whether it'd be something Jen and I would be interested enough to call out. And then I've got to actually write up my thoughts about it. And then I've got to talk about it in a podcast a month later, give or take. 2020, I'm trying to simplify, and I'm not doing that geek list anymore. And without that geek list, there's no Games of Interest monthly segment. So folks, I'm sorry, I know a lot of people, that's probably why you listen, and I apologize if I'm going to lose you, but I got to do what I got to do. And so with this episode, the Games of Interest section is gone. Now, that said, there will still be 3 full episodes devoted to Game of Interest. We just heard one last month, and in January of every year, I'll talk about the upcoming Games of Interest, and then cut forward to August, I'll do a 100% devoted Games of Interest for Gen Con, and then I'll do one again in October. So what that means is, hey, last month's podcast, I talked about 200 or so games. Those are going to have to tide you over till August, whereupon I'll probably talk about another couple hundred games. And then in October, I'll probably talk about another couple hundred games. But then for the rest of the year, this podcast is really going to be devoted to questions and answers. Because the other thing is, I always do the top 10 revisits. And I'll be honest, that's proving to be trickier and trickier to do. I'm getting less and less feedback on top 10s. I'm having less and less to say. Plus, as time goes on, I'm starting to get to the point where I'm actually going to revisit top 10s. I've already done a few. So I think from now on, starting with episode 57, this podcast is going to be 100% devoted to answering questions and answers. And even with that, it'll probably be over 2 hours a month of 2 to 3 hours. We'll see how well this one goes. I've already done the portion with Jen, and that was me and Jen talking to you for 2 hours and 42 minutes already. And I've still got a whole bunch more questions to answer because I set aside game ones that Jen wouldn't have anything to say much about. So again, apologies to people who love the Games of Interest or who love the top 10 revisits. I think moving forward, it's just going to be about questions and answers. So folks, please, if I haven't lost you, keep sending those questions in to questions@rahdo.com because, like I said, I love it. It's my favorite thing I do in all of Rahdo Runs Through is doing the Q&A sessions for this podcast. So please keep them coming and let's have some fun. And with that out of the way, hold on, folks. We'll be right back with the beginning of some questions and some answers. Hey everybody, welcome back. So, it is time to answer your questions, starting with Natalie, who says she just watched the Dice Tower's top 100 games of all time. Well, or this year's anyway, since they do it every year. Could I do a list like this too? And if so, how would I go about making a list like that? Actually, it would be super easy, barely an inconvenience, because anytime you want, you can just go to rank.rahdo.com or games.rahdo.com and you'll find I've got a top 300 of all time. Actually, let's see, what is the count on it right now? If I were to go to games.rahdo.com, and yeah, sometimes when you come here, you have to refresh, so it actually gets a read. Yes, there we go. Okay, I have at games.rahdo.com my top 362 games. My lowest ranked game, Forbidden Island. My number one game, Pandemic. And 360 other games besides, all presented in countdown form. And if I were to do a top 100 like Tom and company does, I would just open this up and I would scroll down. And my current top 100 is New Frontiers. And I would talk about that. Then my number 99, It's a Wonderful World. And I might mention I really need to play the campaign because that might push it up a few. And then my number 98, Quadropolis, such a great little SimCity, etc., etc. I have all the information already because I am constantly keeping this up to date. I mean, I talked a bit in the opening about how I spend 200 or 300 hours. I used to spend 200 or 300 hours researching all the games. I spend a lot of hours every year. Probably not that many, but I don't know, 20 or 30 hours at least, making sure this list, this curated list of 362 games is kept up to date. And I am constantly shuffling games around as I play new games and I realize, oh, well, this game, I definitely like it better than this one, but not as much as this one. So why is this one higher than that one? Oh, now I really need to think about this. So I'm constantly tweaking this. And in spite of that constant churn, the interesting thing is, this is kind of drawing back parallels to Dice Tower. I'm always surprised how they so radically change every year. If I were to do a top 100 every year, there would be very little change. Probably 20 games come in, 20 games go out, but most games maintain their same relative ranking because games don't get better or worse for me. They maintain a solid status because I'm rating them on how much I like them, and how much I like them is largely determined by how good I think they are. So anyway, I could do a top 100. I've never done it because all the information is there already, and yeah, maybe I should someday. The trickiest thing about it would be the fact that there are other games that are not on this list at games.rahdo.com that should be on the list, but they aren't there because, well, you can find out why at gone.rahdo.com. Now, most of the games that are listed there are games that I got rid of because Jen and I didn't like them or didn't enjoy them for various and sundry reasons, and this is a list of me explaining why we got rid of them. But if you dig too deep into this list, you will occasionally find games that, oh, the reason I got rid of it is because I gave it to a friend who really wanted it really badly. Or because, oh, I moved and I couldn't keep a bunch of stuff and I really love the game. So there are going to be some games that probably should make it into my top 100 that aren't there. And oh my gosh, that would be so much research. Now, what I would not ever do if I were to do this top 100 is follow the Tom approach of saying, right, I'm going to get out postcards of 300 games and I'm just going to one by one A-B compare them until I come up with a new list. I could do that, and that would probably cause a little bit of shifting, but it wouldn't that much because, like I said, I'm doing that iteratively all the time. So I guess, Natalie, what I'm saying is go to games.rahdo.com and you can find my top 362. And if you have any questions about like why is this down at 197, you talk so lovingly about it, let me know and I will explain myself. Sometimes the answer might surprise you. Maybe even good cannon fodder for more questions to questions@rahdo.com. Okay, then we go on to Jelly, who mentions a couple of weeks ago saw a Dice Tower review of Dreamscape where Tom literally destroys the game with very little respect for the people who have put their heart and time into creating the game, making the game as good as possible. Not only did he destroy the game, it also seemed he missed a good portion of explaining the game, which made me wonder if he really took the time learning the game correctly and playtesting it, or was it yet another game that he had to make a review of ASAP and then move on to the next. I don't know the designer personally, but I follow him on social media, and he was really sick when hearing this review. It gave him the feeling of wanting to stop with board games altogether. while Tom Vassell considers himself as an advertiser for gaming. Do, in your opinion, reviewers ever realize that their words sometimes can have a big impact? The negative review of the game will probably have a huge impact on sales when this game comes to retail, especially in the US. Oh boy, Jelly, you are trying to get me in trouble, aren't you? I mean, the last time I actually tried to publicly, rebuke or disagree with Tom, it led me to no end of trouble. And ever since then, I have tried to avoid it. But, what was I saying? I mean, I always try to be spontaneous. I try to answer these questions as they come. So, what to say? Okay. Let's see. In my opinion, do reviewers ever realize their words sometimes have a big impact? I would like to think so, but I have heard Tom on more than one occasion remark about how his videos really don't move the needle that much, and it's not that big a deal. And, I'm sorry, Tom, I will have to respectfully agree to disagree. Like, almost 10,000 people have seen this video of yours, and while I know the majority of them did not make it anywhere near to the end, still, that's probably several hundred, if not a few thousand people have heard what you had to say about Dreamscape. And for the record, I have seen this video. I've watched almost all of Tom's videos, and man, did he get it wrong on this one. I respect Tom. I think he's a wonderful person, a great father, a charitable man, all of that stuff. I have nothing but respect for him and the empire that he has built. But boy, does he miss it by a mile sometimes. And poor Dreamscape definitely got on the wrong end of the stick. I mean, if you watch his run through, it's like the thing he complained most about is addressed by a major feature of the game that he didn't even once mention, which of course leaves the viewer to wonder, did he play the rules wrong? And the thing is, Tom very rarely circles back around. Like, of course I do. I make mistakes all the time in my videos, which is why I have a guy who monitors and makes right what once went wrong. I don't know if Tom missed the rule about, the core feature, the soul of Dreamscape is all about changing and molding and reshaping dreams to go through multiple phases, so that you can get to the bigger, tougher things and all of that. It's a really sharp little game, and you don't have to take my word for it. It's interesting. I actually played this game with an actual professor of design, or actually, he's the head of a design department of a university in Malta, and he liked the game. I liked the game. We both agreed it was a really good game. Beautiful. David Auslus is the designer / artist, Ryan Lockett style, one of the few in the industry pulling it off. And I just thought it was the bee's knees. And I broke my heart when I saw Tom's video because I knew how badly that was, I don't know. I can't speak to the sales. You'd have to talk to publishers. I suspect, Tom's videos don't significantly impact a big major release from Asmodee or Fantasy Flight. But a little tiny independent self-published game like this, you got thousands of people thinking, oh, maybe I should just pass. Yeah, that's not nothing. There's no two ways about it. And, but that aside, it's heartbreaking to see David apparently considering leaving game design because he's a really good designer. And over Dreamscape, which is a brilliant, lovely little game. And I don't know what to say. Honestly, I shouldn't say anything at all because this is just going to get me in trouble and I should just zip my lip. But, all right, what was your question again? Oh my gosh, this is heartbreaking. Do reviewers ever realize their words sometimes can have a big impact? I would like to think so. I certainly know my words do, which is why I am very, very careful to never forget that when I'm talking about a game, I'm not just talking about a game. I am talking about people's lives, people who have put years of their blood, sweat, and tears, of all their creative energies poured into this box. I never forget that, especially when it's a game that Jen and I didn't like, which is why I personally always try really, really hard to see the good in games. I mean, although to be fair, I try really hard to see the good in everything. Life is just better if you enjoy things. And to be fair to Tom, I mean, he used to be really bad about this, going back into the, the Vasco da Gama days, where he just generally didn't seem to care at all. And I think he got enough pushback. I know, because it was when he was put face to face with how badly he hurt the first-time designer of Hawaii, and how demoralizing that was. I think it made him realize that forget about sales. There's people on the other side of these boxes. And I think for the most part, he does a really good job. But you know what? Sometimes he just totally misses it. He just got this one way, way wrong. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, if David is listening to this, David, please don't give up. Dreamscape is beautiful. It's gorgeous looking. Your art is wonderful, but the soul of this game is beautiful too. And heck, just go look at the comments. Look at all the comments on YouTube and on Boardgame Geek. Just so many people stepping forward and saying, look, we played the game. Tom, you're wrong. You completely ignored major parts of it. Did you actually play all that stuff? David, you've got fans out there. I'm a fan of yours. Don't quit. I was a video game designer for almost 2 decades, and I know what this feels like. I have had people rip my games apart, and it's obvious to me they just didn't understand it, and then there's nothing you can do. The rules of interplay between developers and reviewers state that the developer is not allowed to say anything, and the game has to speak for itself. And honestly, again, I do think Dreamscape is a beautiful, lovely design. Don't take my word for it. Take an actual accredited professor of design who also thought very, very highly of it. And I hope it finds an audience. I hope Tom's video encourages more people to go out and look. Or at least I hope enough people look at the comments in Tom's video to see that, you know what? Tom is human, and to err is human. Like I said before, I respect Tom. I like Tom a lot. We've chatted at great length about all kinds of stuff, and I think he is a genuinely good-hearted, warm person. And sometimes he just really blows it. And this was one of them. I don't know. Am I answering your question? I honestly, after I've been so burned on this, I don't even want to touch this with a 10-foot pole. But okay, let's continue. All right. So I personally like your reviews a lot. You always have respect for everybody, even when the game is not for you and Jen. Take Terramar, for example. You did not destroy the game, on the contrary, but you do mention that this is not a game for you and Jen, and it might be for other people, as it has this and that going for it. I have no affiliation with Dreamscape, but could you give a shout out to people that they go out and watch your review of the game, although it has been a few years since you last published it? Yes, well, hopefully that was pretty obvious. I think the game is great, and unfortunately my video is a little out of date. It was with a prototype, but hopefully that's the strength of my videos, is that you can decide for yourself. You don't have to care about what Tom or I think. You can look at the game and decide for yourself if it looks like fun. And for the record, I think it's a great, great fun. Wonderful design. What is it you think? There's such a huge difference in game taste between you and Tom Vassell. I noticed that there are quite some cases where Tom destroys a game telling people how bad and boring the game is, and there's nothing new about the game, while you think it is fantastic, a lot of fun, and very innovative. I guess it is good. We all have different tastes. It was just disappointing, Tom having so little respect. But I guess it is good for the number of views, no? Yeah, like I said, hopefully this is still a net positive for the game. Because again, it's 9,000 people have seen that video. And the majority of people just watched the first minute or the first 2 minutes. And hopefully the majority of them were able to decide before they ever got to what Tom thought, oh, Dreams, yeah, I don't care. Or, oh, well, that looks really nice. And, they take Tom's opinion with a grain of salt. Or they read the comments because, I remember I was just shocked when I saw this video. It missed the mark so terribly badly. But, Tom was quick to mention, I think he did mention in the video, to be fair, that he and those he played with found it boring. And hey, you know what? Different strokes for different folks. Not every game is going to be for everybody. Not everybody likes everything. The bigger issue with this video is the stuff he complained about is directly addressed by the stuff that he did not even mention, which just leaves you wondering, did he miss key components? We'll likely never know, and that's fine. And, okay, but the question is, why are Tom and I don't know. You look at our backgrounds. I was a game developer. I've had my heart broken on many occasions. I've been furious. I've been angry. I've been distraught. I've been thrown into despair. And, well, I mean, I'm sure, I know, Tom has bore more than his share of suffering in life. Make no mistake about it. I think everybody knows. And he's a strong man. He's come out on the other side of it, and he's done good. He's done wonderful things with his life. And again, I have to stress, I really like Tom a lot. He's a great, great guy. I could imagine him being a close friend if I lived down in that area of the world, even though we see the world so differently. But he doesn't have the same background as me. He has designed one game, by himself, and then he co-designed another game. That game got great critical acclaim. The other game was largely ignored, and of course, make no mistake, Tom has to bear his brunt of sling and arrows too. All kinds of unfair things are slung his way all the time, and just spurious claims and all the rest of it. And he just grins and bears it. He shrugs it off. He carries it with real grace. And I have to admit, I respect that. I wish I could do it as well as he does sometimes. I mean, I'm 10 years older than this guy, and yet still I'm impressed by the level of maturity he can often bring, although he also brings a lot of immaturity too. I'm often very disappointed by the levels of immaturity he treats some of these subjects. But anyway, like I said, Tom is a human being, and to err is human. Tom has certain blind spots about his videos. I have certain blind spots about my videos. Everybody has blind spots about the things that they care about, that they create in life. And that's the way it is. I don't know. I mean, heck, I'd love to sit down and show Tom how he's wrong about Dreamscape. And again, the main thing I can do is I can just send a message out there to David, don't give up on this. I mean, if this is your dream, it's a good dream because it turns out you're really good at it. And one guy with the camera, Tom Vassell, does not get to define your legacy as a creator. Not that I do either. Create for yourself. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in your designs, please stick with it because you're a talented artist and you made something really special with Dreamscape. And I should now delete this entire section, quite frankly, because, oh my gosh, the last time I did this, but okay, I'll let it stand. Tom, if you ever hear this, please bear in mind, it's said with love and respect. Sometimes you're crazy. You're absolutely insane. And yeah, Aftermath. Or not Aftermath, sorry, that's a totally different game I was thinking about. Dreamscape is definitely one of those times. And oh boy, wish me luck, folks. I hope this does not cause me any grief. Please don't come back and bite me in the butt. Anyway, let's go on ahead and move on to Andrew, who hopefully has a less controversial question. If I was able to play the Lord of the Rings LCG more, would I prefer to experience the content in a chronological order as released, or would I prefer to pick and choose? Given the availability of content, which method do you think you would actually do? Right, if I quit, or Rahdo runs through tomorrow, and high on my list would be getting to do more Lord of the Rings, I would like to do it, not necessarily chronologically, but Lord of the Rings, as I understand it, at least in the early days, back when I paid attention to it, was released as little mini stories where the individual modules tied together to tell an overall narrative. And so I would definitely want to follow along those lines. That's not saying I wouldn't happily jump to a more recent narrative because, these are all kinds of, fan-made narratives that are loosely based on the books. Bringing the characters into new scenarios that we never saw or imagined. But yeah, I would want to play it in narrative order wherever possible. I don't know how much they've kept that up, but I do know that was a big part because I know I've got 2/3 of the expansions that are necessary for the first little narrative chapter that came out. And if I were to seek out more, even though I'd have to pay a premium, the first thing I would do would get the rest of the expansions so I could finish that narrative. Probably the next thing, once I got those out of the way, if I were to continue going, and I'm sure I would love to, I would probably try to find the next little narrative collection of expansions that would be easiest to get 100% of. And that's how I would go about it. I'd be narrative driven first. Okay, that was nice. All right, let's continue. To Paul, who mentions that in episode 56, when I was talking about Kanban, EV, I mentioned Kanban was possibly Vito Lasarda's most complex game, but not the heaviest, which made Paul wonder about the relationship between complexity and weight. seems they're not necessarily directly proportional, which he had previously assumed. You're correct. They're not. They are very different metrics by which to judge a game. That's me replying. Continuing with Paul's email, is the weight/heaviness of a game directly related to how much brain power needs to be expended on your turn, coupled by how many moving parts of the game need to be kept in mind, whereas the complexity relates to the amount of rules that there are? I would say yes. That's pretty close to how I would sum it up. The thing is, though, the BGG weight rating also mentions difficulty, which is another potential metric for weight that has been discovered. The BGG wiki describing weight to further muddy the waters. Then he has a link for the BGG definition of weight. Oh, I'm afraid to go look at it, but let's go ahead and look at it. Alrighty, it's going to open up here, and alrighty, weight isn't clearly defined according to Board Game Geek. For a while, game pages mentioned complexity rating with a brief mouse over explanation. For different people, weight means different things. Complex, how complex and thick is the rulebook? How long does it take to play? What proportion of time is spent thinking and planning as opposed to resolving actions, etc.? BGG uses a 5-point weight scale. Light, medium, medium heavy, and heavy. Weight is part of the rating system. There were actually several other things that weight could mean. You're right, that certainly muddies the waters. Let's get back to that email. Alrighty, be interested to hear your thoughts on the subject. I think that amongst hardcore geeks who actually care about the weight rating, and most people don't, I think it's pretty widely accepted that the overall heaviness of a game is a combination of factors. Whether you want to call it weight or heaviness, and that's what they're rating. That is broadly, how much brain power do I have to burn to play this game? The heavier a game is, the greater its weight, the more my brain muscles have to flex. That's simple enough. But the two main determiners of how much your brain is going to flex is based on two different things that Board Game Geek does not directly track. Its depth versus its complexity. And I'm looking through your email. I don't think I saw you mention the word depth. And that's what I think is where the rubber hits the road in determining a weight. A game could be heavy because it's incredibly deep, or because it's incredibly complex, or both. You could have a deep game that's super simple. That would be Go. Go is an incredibly deep, rich game. Chess is a little bit more complex and super deep as well. Or you could have games that are not really particularly deep, but are crazy complicated with so many rules. That, I think, for the most part, to a certain extent, is kind of the definition of an Ameritrash game. When it boils right down to it, the decisions are pretty easy to make. Once you wade through an insane amount of keywords and probability charts and all the rest of it, or probability computations and whatnot. So you can have a game that's really complex with a lot of moving parts, a lot of rules, but the real meat of the game is not particularly deep. They're pretty simple decisions you make, but still you have to work through waves of obfuscation of complexity. So you could have a really heavy game because of complexity or because of depth. Neither is right or wrong. It's totally fine if people want something, again, that's kind of what typically Ameritrash is considered, like Arkham Horror, because they want the game to be so rich and atmospheric and thematically grounded that they put in 1.5 billion rules that you have to keep track of, so that world comes alive. When you get through all that, the decisions are interesting, but nowhere near as deep as a Stefan Feld game, which is much more, hey, you know what? The rules are pretty simple when it boils right down to it. There aren't a lot of special edge cases you have to pay attention to, but you spend so much time thinking through the consequences of your actions. Me and Jen, we both prefer depth to complexity. But hey, I love Gloomhaven, and it's a very complex game. And part of the mastery of Gloomhaven, part of why I feel good about playing it, it makes me feel smart, is because I have mastered that complexity and I can use it as a tool. But if Gloomhaven wasn't equally deep, because at its heart, it has very simple decisions. I'm going to play a couple cards, I'm going to use actions on each of those cards, and there's real meaning to that decision. If it was just complexity without the depth, I wouldn't care for it. So, depth is hugely important. Complexity is something I like, up to a certain level. And some of Vital's games get, all of Vital's games are deep, and most of them are very complex as well. And I think these days, hey, that's kind of the sweet spot. That's what Mindclash does with Tricerian in all their games. They make really deep, interesting, meaty Euros that also are drowning awash in really complex Byzantine rules that you have to learn. It seems like that's the sweet spot these days for people. And I admit it, I like it too. But personally, I like to be a little bit lower on the complexity scale wherever possible. Are those some thoughts? Yes, hopefully. Thanks for the question, Paul. Okay. Oh, by the way, I should mention, Paul, years ago, before I think I was doing Rahdo runs, let me see if I can find this. Richard Ham, depth, complexity, geek list. That is what I've just done a search for. Yes, do a search for Richard Ham Depth Complexity Geek List. That on Google. That will take you to a geek list I made in 2012, before it even occurred to me to pick up a camera, where I broached this topic. And it was a really good geek list. It had a lot of responses. It was me suggesting, hey, here's examples of high depth, low complexity, or vice versa. And other people were doing it. It went on for 3 pages. I'm pretty happy with the end result. So if you want to dig more, you can go find that. It's the geek list is depth versus complexity. Alrighty. Okay. Moving right along. We leave Paul behind. We find Shaw. No, not Shaw. We find Gerard here. I mentioned in episode 55 why there's no good board game rentals. And that they're hard to find because of piece count. Good observation, since it's way harder to correctly identify if you have all the pieces rather than seeing if the CD is scratched or the tape has been rewound. Okay, sounds like you agree. Then he asked, do you have board game cafes in the States? Yes, we do. I believe board games cafes are hugely popular. I'm assuming you must be, here, you got a .ca, you're in Canada. I know in Alberta, we have tons of cafes here, and you can either borrow games or bring your own in. I'm a little tight since I have a separate table for drinks because I'm afraid of someone spilling their drink over my game. Couldn't agree more with the other people not taking care of your games like yourself. All right, okay, that got a little in the woods there. I think the question is board game cafes, and I think really your question is, yeah, but what about board game cafes? They're successful. How can don't they have the same problem? I think to a certain extent they do, but the reality is, if you're in the shop, the person who owns the game is just right over there, 10 feet away. I think people are going to be naturally predisposed to take a little bit better care of games when they see the person who owns it, than they are if they just get it in the mail and they play it and then, okay, we're done. Let's just go ahead and swipe everything back into the box and send it back. And they might not notice that pieces fell under the table. Hey, never mind the fact that a board game cafe, if pieces fell under the table, they're in the cafe, so you can still find them. Obviously, I imagine board game cafes probably have to deal with a certain amount of problems where people literally steal stuff, either on purpose or by accident. And I imagine that's part of the cost of doing business, but it probably means, okay, occasionally we have to buy extra games, or hopefully just contact the publishers and they'll send us replacement pieces. But it's probably, that cost of doing business is more than made up for by the fact that you've got those board games brought people into your cafe and they bought sandwiches and coffees and whatnot. So I imagine it all comes out in the wash. But yes, board game cafes seem to be very popular. They're popping up all the time, and they're awesome. I love them. Okay, Gerard is back again, and apparently Gerard has asked questions in the past, and I'm guessing I said Gerald because you want to point out it's Gerard, like Gerard Butler, here from Canada. I apologize, Gerard, if I said Gerald. I'm sure I'm not the only one to do it, though. It's an easy mistake to make. I apologize. Anyway, hope you had a good new year. I love your non-editing approach for walking for your walkthroughs. Shows more of a realistic mindset on when you have decisions to make, especially when you need to choose one or the other. Thank you. I think so too. Having your videos edited would mean you could think of a strategy on your next move, or your screwed up move, which that's why you tell people to turn on the subtitles. Curious to know, since you started with video games, what made you turn your focus to board games? I know you wanted free copies of games since you couldn't buy any more, but why not a run through on video games? Well, I know I've talked about this some in the podcast. There's also, if you do a search for my first 10 games. I probably talked about it a bit there. Rahdo's top 10 first 10 games or something like that. But here's the deal. I was still a full-time video game developer when I discovered Pandemic. And in under 2 years after that, I retired from the video game industry. And in those 2 years, my eyes were open to how much more I love board games and video games. I have been a diehard video game fanatic since I was a young kid, like 3-4 years old, back in the 70s when my parents bought a copy of Pong from Sears. I still remember it very clearly. Or, well, I think I do. I probably don't. That's the tricks of human memory. But anyway. And so all my life I've been a diehard. I define myself in large parts by my love of video games. In less than 2 years, after discovering Pandemic and sharing it with Jen and realizing how much, to my taste, how much better board gaming is than video gaming, I lost all interest in video games. And in fact, I have not played a big AAA video game all the way through, or even to any extent, since the second Batman Arkham game. Because I was playing that while I was still working full-time because I was evaluating it because Splash Damage was vying to try and get the contract to work on the multiplayer for the fourth one, I think. Anyway, that's why it never occurred to me for a second to make a channel about video games. I could have, and quite frankly, I'd be a lot more successful if I had. I'm not saying I'd be PewDiePie successful, but I suspect I'd be Angry Joe successful at the very least if I had decided to start making videos about video games instead of board games. But I had no reason to do it because I had no desire to play video games. And to this day, I still have no desire to play video games. And I don't imagine that. Never say never, but I'm 50 years old. I'm about to turn 51. And I don't know if that's ever going to change because board games provide so much more depth and joy to my life than video games ever did. Because I can share them with my wife. And that's the most important thing to me in the universe. So that's where I'm at, Gerald. I did it, Gerard. Sorry, Gerard. That's where I am. And that's why I went the board game route instead of the video game route. Good question, though. Okay, next up we have Michael, who wants recommendations, which he knows will probably drive me nuts as I try to plumb the depths of my mind palace looking for something that fits. Good mind palace reference. Yes, I have a terrible mind palace. That's my problem. But maybe you'll think of this one, something on this one. My first one is long, second one is quick. I need a space game like Eclipse, but quicker and lighter. I'm sort of Care Bear for 3 X's of the 4. My wife likes combat and area control, and I'm okay with it. So we love Eclipse, but it's hard to get such a long game to the table. Can you think of anything that might scratch the same itch? Well, you're right. I would suggest just going to the recommendations forum on Board Game Geek and you will get much better answers than you can get from me. But anyway, fortunately you had specifics. That helps. Ones I'm considering: New Frontiers, Horizons, Empires of the Void 2, and Tiny Epic Galaxies. Tiny Epic Galaxies is lovely. New Frontiers is great, although it has no take that. So it sounds like your wife wouldn't particularly enjoy that. Horizons I never played. I don't know it, so I can't speak to it. I can think of one, though, that you didn't mention. It's not from AEG. It's from the Greek guys who I love. Oh gosh, why can't I think of the name? Why can't I even think of Artipia. Let's see. Let's find Artipia. All right, advanced search. Artipia games. Artipia. Our games. And the name of the game, don't give me expansions, thanks. We're almost there. We're doing the search. It is New Dawn. I might suggest New Dawn. I would definitely add that as one you should check out. It's much faster. It is definitely like a pared back Eclipse, a bit more Euro-y, very, very quick, and some interesting area control that was a bit too much for me and Jen, but I think might work out well for you. And so I would strongly recommend you look into that. Hey, I believe I've got a video of it. Of the ones you mentioned, Tiny Epic Galaxies is great. but it's super short. If you were looking for just like a little bit less Eclipse, Tiny Epic Galaxy might be taking it too far. New Frontiers has no Take That in it. Empires of the Void, I hear good things about, but I haven't played it. Same with Horizons. Have I? I feel like I have played Horizons. Let me look at that. Rahdo, Horizons. I have done Horizons. Okay. And it had art by the Miko in it. I don't remember it well enough to say. So I would suggest checking out my run through, and also check out my run through for New Dawn, and check out my run through for Edge of the Tiny Epic Galaxies. Horizons might be a good one, but I don't. The more I think about it, the more I think New Dawn might be one to consider. Let's see. Hopefully, the other one I'll be a bit more decisive. We need something other than Tsuro, which is puzzly, quick, very easy to teach and get into, and evidently route building is a plus with us. Tsuro got boring with me after 3 plays. Honestly, I'm not surprised. Tsuro looks beautiful, but totally not interesting to me and Jen. Route building is a plus. The first thing that pops into my head is Kingdom Builder, which is very puzzly, quick, easy to teach. It's not route building, it's kind of route building because you're grabbing terrain and you do it from a central place, and it's awesome, and I think it's got legs for days. So that'd be my immediate response. It's nowhere near as pretty as Tsuro. But yeah, Tsuro is definitely not our kind of game. So again, I'm going to have to say, can I suggest going to faq.rahdo.com and looking into answer number 5, where you will find a link to the true answers you seek. Okay. Next up, Danilo. Okay. First of all, I want to say that I am very important to Danilo, not only for my gaming views, but also our overall worldviews inspired him to be a more optimistic person. That's fantastic. That makes me really happy to hear, Danilo. However, sorry to say, you do not like my solo run-throughs. I really can't get a good sense of the game when you do that. I feel like the reason for that is there's no interaction between you and the Otama whatsoever. When you do a 2-player game or run-through, you simulate that interaction, and it shows much more of the flow of the game and the actual way a person would be thinking when playing the game. That has always been the greatest strength of your videos, and the solo run-throughs take a little that away. Besides, we miss the opportunity to see different strategies, which was also something amazing to get from your videos. Of course, that is for some games. The solo is okay, especially co-op, but they will never be as good as simulating a second player experience. I've tried multiple times, and more often than not, I have to drop the video and go look for another way to see the game. 90% of the time is not going to be as good for you as it would be if I hadn't been solo. Sorry, I totally understand why you do it. I listened to your podcast where you explained. However, for me, it doesn't work. All the best. So I didn't see a single question mark in there, so I could just go on ahead and skip, but I'm not going to. Let's talk about this a little bit more. First of all, Danilo, and anybody else who agrees, I know there are others out there who agree. I know you've already heard this. I'm going to say it again. I apologize. Dude, I'm 50. I'm about to turn 51. I've got to start taking better care of myself. I know you don't want me to burn out. Doing more solo run-throughs is a big step towards ensuring that I keep the channel running at all. So, but you already knew that because you've heard me talk about this before. What else can I say? First of all, can I suggest you subscribe to the Slicker Drips channel if you haven't already? That's Tom Heath. Tom Heath, when he picked up a camera and started going, he asked me, hey, Rahdo, do you mind if I copy your style? And I said, sure, knock yourself out, kid. And he has so copied my style. And I think, as far as I know, he's doing a few, but he's still sticking mostly to the, hey, I'm representing me, and instead of representing his girlfriend, he represents his cat, which is fine. Same end result. So maybe you will find on his channel what you're missing from mine. That said, I am going to beg to differ a little bit, Daniela, because I think you have convinced yourself that you're not getting the same level, the same sense of what the game is. Because here is the deal. Normally, there's largely, let's see, let me think about this. I might hurt myself because I'm just thinking on the fly. I'm just going with my gut. I'll stick with my gut. Normally, broadly, there are two types of solo experiences I will demonstrate. One, where there is a full automa that for all intents and purposes emulates another human player, creates the same types of opportunities and obstacles that another human player would do. All right. And then the other type is one where, really, it doesn't matter if there's another player or not. It's pretty much a solitaire experience. There's no real interaction between players. I don't view that as a bad thing. And all you gotta do to get a good solo game out of this is just tighten the board a little bit, institute a score target or whatever, because it doesn't matter whether you're playing it with one player or two player or 10 players. You would make the exact same decisions in the exact same situations. Those are the two types of solo experiences that I would consider saying, hey, you know what? It's going to be okay for me to do a solo, because in the second one, it's obvious. There is no strategy to articulate based on what I think my opponent is going to do, because my opponent doesn't matter. It's a multiplayer solitaire game. So why not make my life easier by demonstrating it solo? You would argue, and you did in your very nice email, that, there's still a reason to do it, because if I show me playing multiplayer solitaire and Jen playing multiplayer solitaire, I show twice as much strategy. You get a broader reach or deeper view of the game. I can't argue with that. That's true. But here's something you don't get. If I'm going to play a game and I'm having to spend 50% of my time making my strategic discussions and decisions and articulation, and 50% of the time showing Jen's, that means, and I'm sure you know this as a fan of the show, I don't get very far in the game. I'm going to get through a few turns and that's it. If I solo that baby, I'm going to, on average, get twice as far into the game. So, while arguably you will see less variety of the strategies, you will get to see more of the game. And as I'm sure you know, games tend to evolve and change the further you go into it. So, you're losing one thing, but you're gaining something else that I would argue is equally valuable when I do a solo of a multiplayer solitaire game. You might disagree, and I understand, and if so, check out Slicker Drips. For the other one, broadly speaking, and of course there's exceptions to all these rules, broadly speaking, the other type is where there's an automa that emulates a second player. Here's the deal. When I do one of those, I try very hard what I could just do is say, okay, I take my turn, I make all my decisions, boom, let's just do the automa, and now let's come back to me. I don't do that. I actually walk through the automa. And while you're right, of course, the automa has no strategy. They're just they've got a deck of cards or whatever the system might be, and they're just going to do a set of pre-scripted things. What I do is, when I'm talking about my moves and how I'm going to try and think strategically about should I choose A or B? Should I go through the door? Should I go through the window? Whatever the game is. If I'm playing against virtual Jen, I will talk about when I'm making that decision, Jen might do X, Y, or Z, and that affects me. When I'm doing it a solo, I try to talk about the automa might do X, Y, or Z, and here's how it would affect me, and here's how I should make that decision. What I'm saying is, I don't just ignore the automa and then do a move for them. I think about and articulate, the automa might occupy that spot. In fact, there's a 30% chance based on the options that the automa would do that. And because of that, I've got to make a strategic decision. I've got a 66% chance that that's a safe move for me. But a 1 in 3 shot, I don't know if that's a good thing. Maybe I should do this other stuff. Now, here's the thing. From my perspective as a player, that is the exact same type of strategic observation and analysis that I would do if I were trying to decide if Jen is going to take that space rather than an automa. It's a little bit different, granted, because I know with probabilistic certainty what the automa is going to do. It's a 33% chance. It's a 1 in 3 chance. Whereas I can't say that with Jen because she's a human player, but I can still articulate and identify Jen is very likely going to want to take that spot. I can say it because, this is what Jen's strategy is. I can say it from the point of view of the automa because the automa has a 1 in 3 shot based on the card he's about to draw or whatever. So it's similar. And it's giving me the opportunity to make the exact same types of decisions. It's a slightly different input, pure probabilistic card draws versus strategic analysis of what an opponent does, but I'm still articulating the same thought process that I would go through as a player. And I do not believe, because believe me, you're not the first person to mention this, and I've gone back and watched. And again, I personally believe that the viewer is still getting the same end result from this run-through that you would get whether I was, emulating Gem or emulating an Otama. You still get a deep, full understanding of the decisions you as a player will have to make. Yes, you are right. I do not give you a second player's worth of decisions. So the perspective, the presentation of the game becomes a bit shallower, but I tend to go further into the game and I tend to play longer, so you get a different level of representation of the game. And I understand and I totally appreciate that might not be a worthwhile trade-off for you, but getting back to where I started, I gotta do it, man. I gotta make this, if I'm in this for the long haul, I've got to make it something that I can do. Because what I'm not going to do is go the Tom Vassal route of hiring a whole team of people to do all the work for me. Because I don't bring in a couple $100,000 a year in fundraisers. I come nowhere near that close because I'm not that popular. And that's fine. I mean, Tom has certainly earned his place at the top of the heap, and congratulations to him. So I've got Paulo. Paulo takes so much weight off my shoulders, but I'm not about to hire a video editor or any of that stuff because honestly, that's just going to introduce different types of stress into my life. And I guarantee you, Tom would agree, and Tom would be able to talk at great length about that. So that's not a route I can do. So for me to make this an long-term viable thing, solos become a bit more standard. I apologize if that means the show doesn't work for you, but I only gave you that big spiel to try to convince you that if you look a little bit more closely, you might believe you're not getting as much, but I think you are. It's just you have to kind of readjust your expectations. Just because it's different doesn't mean it isn't also giving you the same core. I personally wouldn't do a solo run-through if I didn't feel that I would still be able to demonstrate the same core decisions, the same thought processes that I go through. It's only under those circumstances I choose to do it anyway. So I'm articulating it. If you feel you're not hearing it, well, I'm sorry. Check out Tom. He does a great job. And someday he'll replace me because he's young and I'm old. Okay. Phew. Boy, this is deep. See, I just don't have time for top 10s and games of interest anymore. These are good questions. I'm still nervous about that Tom that Tom response though. Anyway, let's continue to Andrus. Andrus says, if there is a BGG entry for Pandemic Legacy Season 3 as 2020, would I have considered it as a normal game? And I consider it a normal game. Where would it have been in my top 25 most entered? It would have been number 1. Easy peasy. Lemon squeezy. No doubt about it. If they would have announced it, it would have made my top 1. Nothing would be more anticipated than that. And that's in spite of the fact that we were a little disappointed by Season 2. Still enjoyed it, but it was nowhere near as good as Season 1. But, I mean, it's a trilogy. I gotta see it out. I'm going to be excited. And, it'd be my number 1. That's super easy. Okay. Natalie wonders, why haven't I ranked Ecos First Continent? I believe that is because, let's confirm this before I speak. Let's go to gone.rahdo.com and let's do a search for Ecos. There it is. You will not find it in my games.rahdo.com or my ranked.rahdo.com because instead you will find it at gone.rahdo.com, where I wrote, really great bingo mechanism, superb production, but 2-player variant rules are a bit ill-considered IMO, which of course is just a quick little 1-sentence summary of my final thoughts that I gave. If I don't keep a game, I don't rate it. And instead, I put it on gone.rahdo.com and I give an explanation for why I got rid of the game. The reason for this is I believe the ranking system, the rating system on Boardgame Geek is fundamentally flawed on a really basic level because it has definitions of what a 1 out of 10 is supposed to be and what a 3 out of 10 is supposed to be and what a 7 out of 10 is supposed to be. And I have 2 problems with it. One, having 10 stages on a rating scale is largely meaningless. Saying a game is a 2 out of 10 is pretty much the same thing as saying it's a 3 out of 10, and it's meaningless and it shouldn't be there. Board Game Geek should have started with a 5-star ranking system. If they want to do a ranking system at all. It's not the best way you could have done it, but that's what they should have done if they wanted to have ranking. So I disagree. I believe if you want to do ranking, a 1 means it's terrible, a 2 means meh, a 3 means, oh, I like it, a 4 means I love it, and a 5 should be that rarest of things, perfection. Any granularity beyond that is meaningless to me. But they do have meaningless, extra granular levels that I do not want to go down the road. Well, should I have given an Ecos a 3 or a 4 or a 3.5? I don't know. But here's the other problem. And it's why I wouldn't recommend Board Game Geek do ranking 5-star, 10-star, 4-star. I don't believe that's the correct way to go about it at all. Because how would I rank Ecos? I think Ecos is a really great game. It's probably an 8 out of 10 in terms of its the objective qualities of its design. And maybe a low 8 because I do think they made mistakes with the 2-player. But I recognize that is a subjective opinion. There's going to be a lot of people out there who love the extra complexity that the 2-player variant brings. So I can't objectively say it's an 8. And what can I say? I could say, meh, it was okay, or it's just kind of good, but I was disappointed by this. But I want to give it a 4 out of 5 because it really is brilliant, which is why I think rankings should be less about these scales. Well, heck, I've talked about this. I mean, you can find it on faq.rahdo.com. I posted a whole thread about this, about what it should be. But long story short, the extra problem is on Board Game Geek. Let's see if I can find the descriptions. I know I can because I can go to faq.rahdo.com where I talk about this in greater length. Let's open up faq.rahdo.com. It'll take a little bit. Then let's scroll down to I do weird ranking. Which one is that? How do you rank and classify your games? That's entry number 23. Let's skip to entry number 23. Then let's wait a second. And all right, so I talk about how I rank things and why I don't rank anything less than a 6. Because I only rank games that I like and enjoy. Anything that we turned out not liking, we don't enjoy. And let's see, and somewhere in here, there better be a link to my thread where I went into this at great length. Yes, I think the scale on BGG is fundamentally ill-conceived. More on that here. That then takes me to a thread called Rahdo's Rankings. And here's what I was looking for. A 3 on Board Game Geek is defined as poor. Likely won't play this again, although could be convinced. 2 is very poor. Annoying. I plan to never play this game again. Here's the problem with those things. A 3 represents 2 radically different things. Whether I think the game is objectively bad, and also at the same time, whether I could be convinced to play the game again. Those 2 things do not correlate. If a game is bad, it's meaningless for you to say whether I can be convinced to play or not. But if a game, I could say a game is very good, but I would never want to play it again. There is no space on their ranking for that. Because what is very good? Very good is an 8. So I should say it's very good. But at the same time, I like to play it. I'll probably suggest it, never return it down. That's a lie. If I rank Ecos an 8, I'm saying it's very good, but I'm also saying I'll never play it again, which means I should give it a 2. The BGG system is broken at its core, which is why I cannot rate things bad, which is why I send things over to gone.rahdo.com and I actually articulate in brief sentences why it wasn't for me and Jen. Phew, boy, that went on a lot longer than I thought. But anyway, that answers your question, hopefully, why I haven't ranked Eco's first continent. It's complicated, basically. Michael says, in episode 55, I mentioned Space Hulk Death Angel. During my description of the game, I said something like, I shouldn't like this game because it's Ameritrashy and roll to resolve. The statement struck you as very odd, as I would never describe the game this way. Am I aware that there's a 120-page strategy guide in the file section? I'm totally unaware of that. Are you aware that the author of the file wins the game about 90% of the time? I'm not surprised by that, but I believe it. I believe that's totally true. Shada, SHDA, is much more Euro-y in gameplay and strategy than it is Ameritrashy. This is interesting. I like this email. I always viewed it very similar to Shadowrun Crossfire in that it's hard, People think it's random, but once you know how to play well, it's certainly not. The dice rolls are akin to crossfire events. Can they muck up your plans? Yes. Can you still win the game if you play well? Yes. Looking forward to hear your thoughts. You know what, Michael? I agree with you 100%, and you were right to call me out. I done wrong by Space Hulk Death Angel. I agree with everything you say. Space Hulk Death Angel would not have been in my top 10 of all time for so long if what you said wasn't true. It is a very Euro-y game. It is not. I mean, getting back to that question from earlier, it is definitely has more depth than it has complexity. And I love it for that. I think it's a wonderful game. And it doesn't surprise me at all that a true master of that game wins it 90% of the time. Just like a true master of Shadowrun Crossfire wins 90% of the time. When I flippantly and offhand said I wouldn't like this, or I said I shouldn't like this game because it's Ameritrashy and roll to resolve, I'm going to amend that statement. I shouldn't. It is Ameritrashy, but only in presentation, because it very much. Well, obviously, it's a pared down version of a super Ameritrashy game that I can't think of the name of. Space Hulk, of course, because it's Space Hulk Death Angel, which is very much an Ameritrashy game. But it stripped away all the chrome, left it to a beautiful, shining little gem of a game, and it's awesome. And it is all about really deep, tough decisions to make and a lot of probability planning, because you know what the dice could potentially do to you, and you have to be prepared. And you also have to know it is a game where you will suffer a lot of heavy losses, but that's baked into the game. So that's all cool. So I think it was unfair for me to say I don't like it because it's Ameritrashy and roll to resolve, because it's only Ameritrashy. That's me judging a book by its cover. It's Ameritrashy on the cover, but once you open it up and start reading, it's a Euro. I agree. So what I should have said is I shouldn't like this game because it's roll to resolve. Because in spite of everything I just said, I still don't like the roll to resolve. And you are right. Rolling to resolve is just a random seed, no different than crossfire cards. Crossfire cards add a layer of randomness to it, and dice add a layer of randomness to it. Still, though, I maintain, and I would say this is true, the difference between the random seed of an event card in Crossfire versus the random seed of a die roll is the order of events. In Space Hulk Death Angel, I make all my decisions, I roll the die, and I see if I succeeded or failed. In Shadowrun Crossfire, I draw a card. So the random seed comes at the end of the process. In Shadowrun Crossfire, by comparison, the random seed of the event card comes at the beginning of the process. A random seed is drawn into the game, and then I make my decisions, and my decisions will play out 100% deterministically, and then another random seed will come in that I've got to deal with. I prefer that. That fundamental issue of we make all our plans, we do our probabilistic determinations and all the rest of it, and then we see what the dice do, that is something that, all other things being equal, I do not like, and it can be enough of a reason to turn me off of a game. It is a testament to how amazing Space Hulk Death Angel is, and you articulated why it's so amazing. You did a great job. It's a testament to how great it is that I will put aside my distaste for the roll to resolve. Another great example of that is Legends of Andor, which also has roll to resolve, and I so wish it didn't, because that would probably catapult it into top 10 category, as opposed to top 30, I think. But anyway, yeah, I completely agree. I misspoke. I was slightly misrepresented, but I do still, to a certain extent, kind of stand by what I said too. But I should have worded it differently. Thanks, though. That was a really great observation. I love it. Okay. And whoops. What's the next one? Okay, next one. We are on to Rachel, who says she doesn't watch many videos, but really enjoys the podcast. Wow. Thank you, Rachel. That's awesome. It makes it all the more worthwhile. Okay. I would be interested in my YouTube content, but generally don't have time to sit and watch videos. You're kind of like Jen in that regard. Spoiler alert, we talk about this at great length later on, because as always, I recorded my stuff with Jen before I recorded this, and I forgot. I've gotten things out of order in my head. But anyway, watch this podcast for more on that. Have you considered making your videos into podcast episodes? I would love to listen to the rambles, the top 10s, etc. in an audio-only format. Okay, well, first of all, I have very long considered putting the top 10s and the roundups that I've started doing onto the channel. For a long time, I resisted doing it because I have a tendency to, in those top tens and those kinds of videos, to reference what's on screen. And if it was in audio format only, it wouldn't make any sense. But for the last year, I started doing these kinds of countdowns in a totally different way, where I just talk to the camera, I explain everything, and then afterwards I splice in video, so I don't make any visual representations of anything on the screen. And as soon as I started doing that, I realized there is no reason that somebody walking their dog or driving to work or wherever, whatever it is they might be doing, couldn't get everything out of this game, because the way I talk about them, I don't know what you're seeing on screen. It's been on my list of things to seriously consider because I know I should do it. And also, coming back to the beginning of this podcast, now that I'm being a baby and stopping doing the top 10 revisits and the games of interest, there's less content on this channel. So I think it is going to happen. I think I am going to start putting roundups and top 10s as so you'll get like 3 episodes of the podcast. The actual podcast, the roundup that just talks about a bunch of games we played, and the top 10, which talks about a bunch of games we played. That's probably going to start happening. You've inspired me to maybe even start doing it today. So watch this podcast channel. I should totally do it. You mentioned the rambles. That I don't think I could do in good conscience because, of course, the rambles are special videos. Even though they'd be perfect for podcasting, they are special videos that I only do for people who back the show. Who basically have 2 spare bucks that they want to give me every month because they like the show enough. And so, hey, I give them a video that's anywhere from 10 minutes to an hour and a half long where I talk about all kinds of things. Now, a lot of the rambles are very video-based, like when I do rambles about how I make videos and behind-the-scenes stuff. A lot of them aren't very video-based, where I do other types of top 10s or revisiting of topics and whatnot. And so you're right, a lot of the rambles would make sense, but I don't have a good way to put those into your ears, Rachel. I'm assuming you must be a backer of the show. Thank you very much for supporting the show. Here's the thing, though. I did find this a while ago because somebody asked about top 10s. Hey, could I get top 10s in podcast form? You can do this right now, Rachel. There's a thread on my guild somewhere. Let's see if I can find it. guild.rahdo.com. Because I found out there are third-party websites out there that will turn a YouTube channel into a podcast, that will automatically generate videos that go into your podcast feed that you can listen to. And I found one and I tested it and it worked great. And the person said, hey, I'm doing this now and I'm getting all your top 10s. And I've forgotten about that until this very second. Let's see, I'm not going to find it here. Let me just turn YouTube channel into podcast. I'm just doing that. Alrighty. Yes, you can do a Google search on this, and there are several threads about this. So you could already be getting stuff. Here's still the problem, though. Those rambles are hidden because only you get to see it. So the thing is, there's got to be a way, Rachel, that you and you're in the minority. This is a tricky thing. You love the show, you support it because of the podcast. That's amazing to me, and it's kind of annoying to have to sit and watch an hour-long, ramble video I do. But I can't just put it on the feed because the majority of people who listen to the podcast have not paid for rambles. I don't know what an answer is for this. I should look into it. Because I would like you and the few other folks that you represent to be able to get this. I guess could I do a secret podcast? But here's the thing: you might one day down the road decide to stop supporting. But once you know the secret podcast, you can keep getting the rambles for free. So it's not like I can just give you access to a playlist. I think Patreon can generate a podcast. And I think, I'll have to look into this, Rachel. If there is a way through Patreon that I could make a subscriber-only podcast, and it could be in addition to the podcast you already subscribed to, you could subscribe to my Patreon podcast, and I would make that only the rambles. That might be a way to do it. I'll look into that. I will look into that, and we'll see how that goes. Right. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't have an answer for you right now. It is a good question. Honestly, I just didn't think there were many folks like you out there, and there probably aren't. But still, I appreciate the fact that you support the show. I want to support you. So that's my answer. Phew. So watch this channel is basically what I'm saying. Okay. Oh my gosh, was that it? Was that it? DTT. Q&A folder. And yes, it was. Phew. Alrighty, folks. Well, that is it. I am done with the Rahdo only portion of the show. And now, if you hold on a few minutes, we'll come back and Jen will be joining me for some game-related questions. And then you can hang around for the personal stuff where, spoiler alert, I do cry once again. Happens all the way at the end. Oh, man. This is a very cathartic show for me. And if you want that, just hang on. We'll be right back. Okay, folks, continuing right along, we are now going to be hitting some questions that you have asked that Jen might be able to chime in on, even though they're game related. At least that was my best guess when I was sorting things as they first showed up in my inbox. And as is so often the case, please remember, this is where we're starting to record the podcast. We're doing things completely out of order, so we may repeat things that we have yet to actually say, which you have already heard because of time causality loops. How are you, honey pie?
I'm good.
She's not great, folks. In fact, she is sitting here leaning back, eyes firmly closed, because she just finished she's still in the process of getting over her LASIK surgery.
Yay!
Yay! Jen is sporting the monovision now, and hopefully she'll never have to wear glasses again for the rest of her life.
That would be lovely.
And I might be sporting it in a month as well, potentially. But we'll see how things work with Jen first. She's a bit my guinea pig at the moment.
Wife and guinea pig.
Yep. Okay. But anyway, that's not game related. But of course, folks, if you have any questions about monovision, be sure to send them to questions@rahdo.com. But in the meantime, people have asked, starting with Alex. Alex wonders, honey pie, have we ever played one of our favorite games with more than 2 players? And if so, did it diminish our love of that game as a 2-player experience? So, well, we generally tend not to. It has happened from time to time. Like the one that pops into my head, remember in Greece, we played a 5-player game of Keyflower? Mm-hmm. And remember how that took like an eternity?
Yes. Forever.
And would you say that... what Alex is pointing out is, well, hey, once we've experienced it at a higher player count, it's so amazing that we would never want to go back and play as a 2-player game.
No.
I think we will find, more often than not, playing at a higher player count reinforces our love of 2-player gaming, because, hey, I get to make my move, and then I get to make my move again relatively quickly, as opposed to waiting for the whole table to go. And that was certainly the case with that. Oh my gosh, that was a nightmare. I mean, it was a good game, and they were nice people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying we didn't have a good time, but geez Louise, it took forever. And we tend to play Keyflower fairly quickly.
Yeah. I'm more thinking of like when we were playing with David and Angela. And I always enjoyed playing with David and Angela.
All right. So, having played Pandemic Legacy Season 1 a second time with David and Angela, getting to play Pandemic as a 4-player game that much, does it make you think, oh, I don't enjoy Pandemic as a 2-player game as much as I used to? Because they were quick players too, and I don't think there was any particular downside to playing Pandemic with them.
No.
Yeah, I mean, and we played other games with them as well. Although we were always playing new games. I think Pandemic was pretty much the only time we played one of our favorites with them.
Charterstone.
Yes, okay, sure.
And didn't we also play a little bit of Gloomhaven with them?
Did we?
I think we
Yes.
did.
Okay. Yeah, well, we've also played Gloomhaven with Isaac Childress himself.
Oh, yes, we did.
Yes, as a 4-player game with him and his lovely wife. So, having gotten to play Pandemic or specifically Gloomhaven as a 4-player game, does it make you afterwards think, oh, I just can't enjoy it as much as a 2-player game?
No, I don't think so.
Does it make you appreciate, oh, I like playing it more as a 2-player game?
I think it does.
Yeah, I think so too. There are certainly games that if we got to play at a higher player count, it would make us say, oh my gosh, yeah, I would never want to play this as a 2-player game. But those are usually games that don't work well in two-player count in the first place,
Yeah.
and they probably didn't make it into our favorite categorization. That's what we have found over and over again.
We quite often find it, this actually would have been a better game with more players, because there would have been more stuff shifting around, more cards getting used, or more resources. Yeah.
Yeah, but those are never games that make it into our favorites category, and you asked about our favorites. So, yeah, I would definitely say the thrust of your argument, could we be converted into multiplayer gamers? I don't know, I think we've done it enough now. And
no.
I mean, there's no choice about it. Pandemic is arguably a richer, more engaging experience when there are 4 people running around the world, and you have more planning to do to get the right card to the right place at the right time, and maybe do multiple levels of shuttling and all that kind of stuff. It's a richer puzzle, but that richness comes at a cost. Usually twice the game length. Usually twice the game length. And I don't think that's a worthwhile trade, even when it's people that we really love playing games with.
I don't know. Sometimes I do like to play games with our friends.
Okay.
I think then that is definitely worth it, and I have a good time because we're just hanging out with our friends playing games.
Sure.
So I would say sometimes it is.
All right. Well, the original question is, did it diminish your love of the game as a 2-player experience?
No.
Yeah. And so, yeah, that, I think that is still sacrosanct. It's still our favorite way to play. And if we had to choose. And the rain is coming down. I don't know if the microphone's picking it up.
Jeez.
But yeah.
It just started actually just pelting down.
Yeah, I can definitely hear it on our thin mobile home ceiling.
It's not a mobile home. It's a
manufactured home. My mistake, yes. All right. It's like I'm living back on the boat. All righty. Next up, Dave, who is a longtime listener, first-time writer, wants to thank us for everything. You're welcome, Dave. But I'm sure you have a question in here. All righty. Dave was born and raised in Oregon and Southwest Washington, so he's happy to know we're in the area. He even got to check out your glass at last year's Gamestorm.
Oh!
All righty. Although you were too busy talking to somebody, so you couldn't say hi. Maybe next time. Although, sadly, no. We will not be at Gamestorm this year.
Nope.
No. Yeah, a few people have asked. Sorry, folks. Can't make it. All righty. Anyway. Dave thinks it would be fun to ask a question to do with games and our new life in the PNW. Yeah, first I'm going to clear my throat. Alrighty. If I were to imagine or draft an idea for a board game set in the town in which we currently reside, which shall remain nameless, what would it be? Feel free to be as serious or sarcastic humorous as you wish. Honey Pie, what kind of game would we make out of this town that shall remain nameless?
I have no idea.
Let's see here. Well,
something about rain at the moment.
I was going to say the exact same thing. I don't think it's giving away too much to say there is a river nearby, adjacent to our town, and because of the Pacific Northwest, there's rivers everywhere. And we were driving Jen to get her eyes zapped the other day. We looked out and saw that because of this insanely wet season we've had, the river is like 3 times the size it normally is, and there was an entire plain that we've walked the dogs in that's completely flooded. So it's like we have a lake here now.
Yep.
So maybe that's, but that didn't happen in the previous year, right? So I don't think that's necessarily.
It's just been a really, really wet January.
Yeah. But I mean, that's not going to be unique to. Is there anything? There's nothing really unique about this town, at least not that we know, having been here for a couple of years. It's it's not on flat ground. So, and we live probably at the highest part of the entire town. I bet you there probably aren't many houses that have a higher elevation relative to sea level than us. And when we only have one car, and when Jen takes off for days at a time and leaves me and Mom carless, that's when I have to get out my bicycle, or Mom's bicycle, I should say. And it's nice going into town to get Mom whatever she needs because it's all downhill, but it's terrible coming back home. So, I don't know, maybe something to do with bicycling around and having to deal with, an easy first half by going downhill, but then a tough half coming back uphill. There's some very nice hiking trails. So, obviously there are games about that already. Yeah, I'm afraid I have nothing neither sarcastic or humorous for you, Dave. And I don't think I've given away enough information so people can pinpoint where we are for everybody who's out there trying to do that.
Where's Waldo?
Yes. Can you think? I don't know. Actually, there is one of those little, hey, somebody's converted a house into a museum of local history. And we've been here for a year and a half and we have not been there, even though it seems like every 3 weekends they have free admission. We should really go down there. And I bet you anything there's some history. I think I think there's a logging history here. I think. So maybe something about that. But I'm afraid I was neither sarcastic, humorous, or serious. Alrighty. And Dave says, it sounds like we're not too far from Vancouver. His parents still live there and he visits them often. He hopes to run into us someday. And I thought he was going to make a funny, sarcastic thing about Vancouver. Yeah, Dave. What's your funny, sarcastic game about Vancouver, Washington, huh? It's not so easy, is it, pal? I mean, actually, no, Vancouver. Okay, we don't live in Vancouver. I'm going to say Vancouver. Totally, the first thing that popped in my head would be the renovation of downtown. Make a game about that because it's amazing. I mean, just in the time we've been here, downtown has transformed, I would say, in a pretty significant way.
Well, they're putting in a whole new area by the river.
Yeah. So maybe something about that. Alrighty.
And it's called the Couve.
And it's something to do with the fact that it's called the Couve. Which you should know, Dave.
That's a bit of a silly thing.
Yep, alrighty. Okay, next up, Jay mentions that in episode 55, there's a question about games handling themes in insensitive ways. One example being Five Tribes and the way it deals with slavery. The question is about H.P. Lovecraft and his work being a very common theme in the board game industry today. Issue being, Lovecraft was openly racist, white supremacist, and a poem on the creation of the N-word described black people as not human but beast in semi-human figure filled with vice.
Wow.
Indeed.
I did not know that.
Jay says he hasn't really seen people talk about sensitive themes in games he's seen people talk about themes in games like Black Orchestra, but never anything to do with Lovecraft's views. And his game group collectively decides on a game they play every month as a person who is in that group that Lovecraft despised. If we decided a game from the Lovecraft universe, Jay wouldn't want to play. And more power to you, right on. I don't judge others since they might not know about this stuff, but at the same time, I don't want to bring it up since it doesn't want to ruin the no politics, just gaming vibe that his group enjoys. It would suck to miss out on the day I look forward to most every week just because of a general lack of awareness, but he doesn't think he has any other choice. Wow. Alrighty. To end this on a more positive note, because so far there wasn't a question, what are some games themes you might think would benefit from diversity? That is a good question. But even though you didn't ask a question, did he ask a question?
He did. What games do you think would benefit?
Yeah, I know, but I don't want to skip over that because that's a really interesting observation. I was casually aware of the problematic nature of H.P. Lovecraft, but in all honesty, I had no idea that he was as bad as you point out with just the title of whatever one of his poems was. I mean, I just kind of knew, oh yeah, he was a racist and all that, but geez Louise, yeah, that's terrible. So I think we probably should talk about that a bit first, because that is a sticky wicket. I don't know if Jen has anything to say about it. I mean, not that we tend to play H.P. Lovecraft games anyway, but that has more to do with the fact that they're just not our kind of games.
Yeah.
But yeah. I honestly, whenever this kind of thing comes up, I always have to go, and I'm sure I've done this on the podcast in the past, I always have to go to my go-to example. There was a time, and there still is a time, I was the biggest Beatles fan in the universe. And I had no idea that John Lennon was a wife abuser. He beat his wife. And I knew there was the line in the song, I used to be cruel to my woman, I beat her and kept her apart from the things that she loved. Man, I was mean, but I'm changing my scene and I'm doing the best that I can. And I never really thought about it much, but then at some point or other, I became aware that, oh, no, that was literal. And that was like a public admission. And I remember thinking at the time, well, geez, does this change how I feel about his works? And am I supposed to, view that along with hey, give peace a chance, and people can change and all that. Now, I have no idea. Did H.P. Lovecraft change? Maybe, maybe not. I'm going to assume probably not. It seems like he'd have a long way to go, and I don't think there are social pressures on him to become more evolved over the course of the game. But here's, I guess, the core question. Does his personal racist views work its way into the fiction? And does that work its way into the game fiction? I don't think it does. But, I mean, Jay, I'm sure you would know a lot better than me because obviously you've looked into this. And if it does, that's really problematic, and I would think that would be something that should be brought up, the same way I brought up the issues with Five Tribes and its completely tone-deaf depiction of, crowbarring of slavery in just in a really gratuitous way. Oh man, these are tough topics. The thing is, there's a literary conceit called the death of the author, which I do subscribe to, and I have for a long time, that when you're trying to evaluate a work of art, who the author was, where they came from, what they even might have been trying to say is largely immaterial. The art stands on its own and should be judged as such. And I do believe in that. I do think that is the most positive and meaningful way to look at art because, well, and this goes for games as much as anything else, because at the end of the day, who cares what some dude who has been dead 100 years thought? What meaning does it have today? How does it affect you and your life? What does it bring to the surface is, I think, the real purpose and power of art. And under those circumstances, while I don't give H.P. Lovecraft a pass, I'm inclined to give Cthulhu Mythos a pass, unless, of course, because I know nothing about the Cthulhu Mythos that isn't represented in games. And I guess, Jay, if you were to say, nope, his feelings about black people are clearly established in the works, and the games are actively ignoring and avoiding that, and only, cherry picking what they bring, then that would be a problem, and I would certainly have a problem with that. If he kept his stuff out of the works, and they truly do stand on their own, I'm less worried about what some idiot used to think, and provided that because actually, as I understand it, the works of H.P. Lovecraft, they're very dark and cynical, and I guess that's really where I come down to. I don't know if you have anything to say about this, Honey Pie. I'm sure I put this on the list because I thought you might be able to answer his more lighthearted question, but so you have nothing to say.
I think you've summed up pretty well what I think. Okay.
Well then, can we think of some games or themes that would benefit from more diversity? And honestly, geez, they all would, quite frankly. I totally. And, I'll say something a bit controversial. Let me know if you agree or disagree with this, honey.
Okay.
I am totally cool with diversity for diversity's sake. By which I mean, I'd be happy to see diversity in games where historically there shouldn't be diversity. I wonder, where are the black farmers in Agricola? Yes, I know it's a game about medieval era white European farmers. I personally would have no problem with seeing more diversity show up in that game because it's not like I'm going to a game like Agricola for gritty, well-researched, deeply, deeply storied historical recreations. It's a largely abstract representation of hard life in an unenlightened time. And okay, I get that. And I think the game would be better for saying, hey, you know what? Anybody, Jay, I think the game would be better if you could, if you were to sit down and play Agricola, or play Agricola with your kids, I don't know if you have kids, could see a wider diversity of faces on those cards. I think that's good for society as a whole. I know I can't think of the games. I have seen some games that say, okay, we don't really care. In the era of Marco Polo, we're going to have some female explorers. They're not historical people, but none of these people are historical. We're just going to say there were female explorers in addition to male explorers. And I know that game, I forget which one it was, drives me nuts, got some pushback, but I didn't understand why, because who cares? Why shouldn't Jen get to play a girl if she wants to play a girl in this game about the Silk Road? Why not?
Exactly.
What's the harm? Granted, if you were to do that, I think it's worth adding in the rule book just a quick little paragraph saying, oh, and by the way, the real history that we are representing here, there were, females did not get to take on these sorts of leadership roles, and that's a real shame. And we're, as developers, we are glad to see that society is moving forward. And while it's not historically accurate, we think it is appropriate to the world we live in today and the message we want to send.
Yep, as a role model thing.
As a role model thing. And so I don't think there's a single board game out there. Certainly the ones we tend to play are very focused on history and specifically very white history. I think that's a shame and I would love to see more of it, and I don't care about historical anachronisms because they all have historical anachronisms. They are all abstract representations of life. So who cares? I care more about the social good a game can do. Right. I don't know if you have anything to add to that, Honey Pie. I didn't mention any specifics. Well, I guess I mentioned Agricola.
Yeah, the only thing that popped up in my head about Agricola specifically
yes.
would almost be a backlash, because if you saw, it's horrible.
Yeah.
If you saw black people farming, you might think it's
that's a good point. That's
slavery
a good point.
and stuff. So I think there's probably a fine line.
I think it would have to be handled delicately. I mean, the cards would have to make clear that, look, we're not trying to imply that, because that's actually a really good point I didn't think about.
Well, these are black owners of the farm. Just people working it or whatever.
Yeah. So that's a good point.
But then that's Agricola specific.
Yeah.
It won't happen with most of the games.
Yeah. And but I do think that navigating.
I think we should make all the characters purple. Let's just make every character out there purple, and then it doesn't matter what color.
Do the Lego approach where everybody's crazy, or the Simpsons approach. Well,
Yellow.
no, the Simpsons has black people, and then yellow people representing white people and Asian people. Actually, no, I don't know. I'd have to go back and look. How are Asian people represented in Simpsons? Are they the same skin tone as Homer and family, or are they? I don't know. It's really weird. I mean, on some level, I just look forward to the point where we don't even talk about such things, because it truly doesn't matter. But I know we're not there yet, and I do think it is important to bear these questions in mind, the creatives of our time. And anyway, like I said, I am always happy to see more female representation, more minority representation, just more not white dude representation in all of my entertainment, in all of my politics, in all of my life. Quite frankly, because there's a lot of white dudes out there. I'm one of them, but there's a lot more non-white dudes in this world. And seeing as how board games are, I'm sure they would like to be a global phenomenon as opposed to just a North American, appealing to hardcore dude geeks. I think it is incumbent on developers to try to push the envelope wherever possible. What do you think, Honey Pie?
Yeah.
Alrighty. Should I have left this one out? Should I have handled it myself, or were you fine with that one?
No, it's fine.
Yeah, now I'm just testing the waters for which ones I should set aside for Jen. It's a good point, though. Yes, it would have to be handled deftly and tactfully, and that's a good thing to do such. Alrighty, moving right along to the next question from James. Let's see. Do I like to do other shows a la the alaboom? Do I feel I just have to be on high energy when I'm in a larger ensemble group like this? What are some more conversational shows? Are more conversational shows fun to do? And we all know... All right, that one's for me, but there's a second question coming for both of us, honey. And you know what? Honestly, the only reason I do the alaboom is because I like those guys. And in all honesty, if you watch... I don't feel obligated when I'm on the alaboom to really do my Rahdo persona much. I often sit for minutes at a time saying nothing and just listening to them talk, because that's kind of I tend to, in social situations, if at all possible, if they'll allow me to, sink into the background and just let everybody else talk. So I can only do that on the alaboom because I am so comfortable and I know them so well. I think if I were to appear on, the Dice Tower has a Wednesday night live show as well. And I think if I went there, I'd have to be on, and that would be a lot more work. Not that I'm saying I wouldn't enjoy myself, because, hey, I like it. I like talking to people. But I do think the alaboom is kind of unique in that regard. You see a little bit more of the real me there, as opposed to the Rahdo me. Alrighty. And then James, honey, here we go. James knows, or everybody knows, says James, that we like to play games together. What's our favorite game to play with other family members? Perhaps during holidays, etc.
Well, that's got to be Why can't I think of the name of it? With the pictures?
Oh, Jen loves playing Dixit with anybody she
Dixit.
can.
Dixit!
Yep. Yeah, honestly, that is the only reason we own Dixit. Dixit is the only game we own that does not work with 2 players. And it is specifically because Jen has had so much fun playing it with, well, specifically with your dad and your stepmom.
Yep.
And yeah, and she will happily play it with anybody who comes to our door.
Yeah.
Especially because we never get to play it because there's usually only 2 people here. I guess we should try it with Mom. How do you think that would work?
Yeah, that would be entertaining.
Yeah, my mom's just really intimidated by, gaming. Completely intimidated by it. But, yeah, so Dixit, that's a good one. And it's interesting. We played a lot of games with Jen's folks because we've done a lot of long road trips with them. And I would take games along. So we played a lot of Dixit with them. We played a lot of Hanabi with them. Remember, that's the...
Yep.
Yeah. And a few others. But those are probably the 2 that really jump out. And those are good suggestions. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Dixit's really the perfect one. Personally, I'm more fond of... I'm thinking Macarinos, but that's wrong. Oh, Mysterium. But that's because it's more gamery.
Yeah.
You remember, because that's the ghost one?
Yeah.
You're not just sitting down just to enjoy each other's company. You're sitting down to win. And I think Jen just likes to sit down and enjoy company because it doesn't... I mean, the scoring is so wacky in Dixit, and those little rabbits are so likely to fall over from just the slightest bump of the table that who knows whose score it is. It doesn't really matter. Jen just likes laughing, and Dixit is, that's why we keep it. It's the closest thing we have to a party game. What about Codenames? I think we must have played with other people. We played it a lot as a 2-player game. Have we played with other people?
I don't know. But I bought a game called Just One recently.
Just One. Oh, yes, yeah.
To play with my family at Thanksgiving. And so that was pretty fun, actually.
How did that go?
It went pretty well.
I was not there. I stayed home with my mom on Thanksgiving.
Yep. But I think they had fun. It wasn't they like they're big cribbage players, so usually there's a big cribbage game going on. Cribbage championship.
Oh, really?
Yes.
And you were kind of muscling in on their cribbage action?
There was a separate group, so we played, and it was really fun. I enjoyed it. So I would play that with anybody who comes to the door.
But Just One doesn't replace.
No.
How many people did you play Just One with, by the way?
4 others.
Because when we tried it at home, we tried it, I think, with your mom? No, with my mom. We tried it with my mom, and as a 3-player game, it was kind of, nah.
Yeah, that's because if it's less than 4, I think everybody gets 2 cards.
Right. And it just becomes overpowering. And yeah. So you played it as a 5-player game, and it worked pretty well.
Yeah.
Would you rather play if 5 people showed up, or 4 people showed up at our door? Dixit all the way. Well, there you go, folks. There you go, James.
But Just One was, they're different. I mean, Just One is a word game.
Yeah.
So.
Would you rather play Just One with people or Codenames? I'd rather play Codenames.
I'd rather play Just One.
Really? Do you remember Codenames?
Yeah. Kind of.
Codenames, there's the grid of words, and there's a clue giver, and you have to give a 1-word clue. Because you've got your little thing, and we don't want them to pick these numbers, want them to pick the other numbers. We've only ever played as a 2-player game, but it is actually designed to be played with large groups because it's a team game.
I thought we played it with. Didn't we play it with some people at a convention?
Did we? I don't think so.
Maybe we played it with Leva and somebody else at a convention.
Did we? Well, if we did, I apologize, Leva, for not remembering this. I really don't remember playing with anybody other than you as a 2-player game. But we play a lot of games.
Yeah, we play.
But anyway, I think we're still, all roads lead back to Dixit, which we have so much Dixit stuff. And I'm on a very, very slow hunt to get every promo. Alrighty. All right. Next up, we have Mario, who wonders, after the sore loser discussion, Mario identified himself a lot with my reaction of doing poorly in a game, which bothers his girlfriend, to the point sometimes she stops enjoying the game. So the question to Jen, what do you think Mario and I should do to avoid this, besides just sucking it up and not being a baby? What is your... I'll let her answer.
He just drew a deep breath.
And then I stopped.
Yes. I think actually maybe just him or you saying verbally, listen, I know I'm being a big baby, but actually I am having a really good time.
That's true. Well, because that's actually something that I fail to do, And I know then at the end we're talking about, hey, how was it? And she's like, well, I don't know. I just, because you were being a big baby the whole time. Not that she says that. She said, she just says, she's very tactful and says, well, I just didn't really enjoy it. And I'm like, why? This was really good. And she said, really? You seem like you hated it.
Time.
Like, no, I thought it was great. I'm just a big verbal baby when things don't go away. I mean, I'm going
to get him a little mask that has a big smiley face on it for these times.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I mean, when I'm playing with Jen, I don't, Jen gets the real me. And I can enjoy a game while doing terribly and feeling sorely put upon by the cruel whims of fate. But I can still appreciate the game and think, wow, that was really cool. Sucks to be me in this game, but I still really think it's awesome.
What happened yesterday?
What happened yesterday?
Or 2 days ago, or whenever it was.
You had your eyes at laser.
No. You won 3 games in a row.
I did win 3 games in a row.
He was a winner!
Which immediately prompted me to say at the end of it, well, how did that happen? We have to evaluate what went wrong here because the polls have misaligned somehow. Did I not end with that? I believe I did.
The bizarro world.
Yes, exactly. That is a good point, though, and it is something that I do need to redouble my. As you say, Mario, the main thing is just zip it and just put on a happy face. But if I can't, at the very least, I think it is. Thank you, Honey Pie, for reminding me that I should say, oh, by the way, I still think this is good. I'm still enjoying myself. Feel free to enjoy yourself. Now, Mario, you might not be like me, and if you're truly not enjoying yourself, what else?
If you're not enjoying yourself, stop playing the game and start playing something you like.
That's exactly where I was going to go.
Oh.
I mean, this is our job. We have to keep playing the game. Mario, you do not. And one thing I will say, this is what I was about to interrupt Jen with, and I realized I should stop interrupting people. I'm a dick.
You're not a dick, Honey Pie.
I do tend to interrupt people, though. I do tend to steamroll conversations. Yes. And I am aware of that, and it is something I can do better about. But anyway, I'm not the only one who gets sourpuss-itis when playing games. If things go really epically bad for Jen, she will wear her heart on her sleeve as well. And
that's true.
But
I don't think I'm as bad as you are.
Well, of course you don't. I don't think I'm as bad as you are. So what do you think about that? But I mention this because if Jen's having a bad time, I will do everything I can to stop the game. If I see she's having a game, I mean, literally at the end of every round, I'll say, Honey Pie, we can just stop. Honey Pie, we don't have to keep going.
Yep.
Honey Pie, look, if you're not having fun, let's just play something else.
Yep.
And Jen does feel honor bound. Well, we must play this game for the show.
Yes. Well, I have to give it a fair shake, is what I feel.
Exactly. But Mario, you and your girlfriend, you have no obligations to that game. I would say the number one thing you can do is just get comfortable with the fact that, hey, you know what? I'm just not having a good time. You mind if we switch to something else? And the sooner you do it, the better.
Yeah.
That is certainly what I would do, and it's what I always try to do when I know Jen is not having a good time. Because I don't think there's the duality of Jen saying, oh, I can't do what I want. I'm still having fun. I think you're not having fun if you can't achieve what you want.
Yeah.
Is that the case? Or in the back of your head you can say, oh, but I still think this is an interesting and engaging experience and I'm glad I'm having it. Or are you more, no, if I'm not having fun, I'm not having fun.
I think most of the time, if I'm losing, I'm actually a pretty good sport. It's just when absolutely everything is going wrong.
Yeah.
That I'm like, oh, this is so frustrating. I haven't, gotten a whatever in 7 turns.
Yeah. It's just things go catastrophically wrong for me more often than her.
I'm actually happy when he wins because then I'm like, hooray, he's going to win. Yay!
Yay! Oh, good job, little fella. You did great.
I get to lose. Hooray!
Yeah. Alrighty. That would be my main advice, Mario. Just pick another game.
Yeah.
No reason to be unhappy. Life's too short. You're playing it to have fun. And if you're not having fun, she's not having fun. If no one's having fun, play something else. Alrighty. Mario then says, Project Shrinko. I will give you the link this time. He mentioned it before, and I said, Project Shrinko, never heard of it. Couldn't be bothered to look it up. But he's given an HTML link. Let's go to the Project Shrinko link. Open up.
Shrinko makes
Chrome.
me think of Shrinky Dinks.
Project Shrinko, all caps. These are tiny versions of big, big games. Alrighty. Which, if I recall correctly, I think that, I see. So this, look at this. Look at the little tiny pandemic. Look at the little fella. It's just only in the U.S. And I wonder, is that supposed to be the size of a playing card? Pandemic Express, Dune Express, Lost Cities. Oh, Agricola Express. We did play it. We have. I think we still have this copy of Agricola Express. Remember? Somebody made. Remember when we back and we were in Woking and we went to the Woking game group and there was a guy who did print and play stuff.
Yeah.
We played it only a couple of times out on the river in Guilford.
Yeah.
It was Agricola, but you drafted
that?
dice. Yeah. It's somewhere up in one of these shelves. Arkham Express. Okay, so Project Shrinko is a movement amongst game fans to make super tiny micro versions of games that obviously still capture the feel of their big brothers, but can be reduced down to a playing card and a few dice. That seems really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I look at the very first one, this Pandemic Express. I would want to play that. It's a 1 to 2 player dice version of Pandemic. Alrighty. Called Infection Express because he was told, hey, you need to rename this, apparently. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so that's the link. Thank you for the link, Mario. Now let's find that email.
Are you going to put the link in the show notes so everybody else can see it?
I am going to say, you know what, folks? If you do a search on Google for Project Shrinko, it will take you to the link he gave us. I'm just, because I guarantee 3 hours from now, I won't remember what I said I was going to do. So I try to avoid saying I'll put stuff in links because I'll forget. But anyway, folks, Google Project Shrinko and you will see this adorable little pandemic board. Oh, it's so cute. Anyway, so thanks for the link. Now, the question was aiming for a Tiny Forming Mars, a fan-made free print-and-play smaller version of Terraforming Mars, independent from a publisher. When it got into the hotness, there was some backlash from people saying they didn't understand how that it wasn't a ripoff of the big game. Thoughts? Honey Pie. I don't know if you even remember Terraforming Mars. Do you remember Terraforming Mars at all?
No.
All right, but you do remember Pandemic.
Yes.
So let's apply the backlash Tiny Forming Mars got to Pandemic Express. If people were saying, hey, you shouldn't be doing that, you're just ripping off the Big Brother game, how dare you? This is, I assume, what people were complaining about Tiny Forming Mars.
Yeah.
What would your thoughts be about that?
I don't know. I think it's pretty legit, actually.
Mm-hmm. Legit to complain or legit to do it?
Legit to complain.
Mm-hmm.
Because you are taking somebody's thing and copyright thing is you have to be at least 50% different or something like that.
Yeah, whatever it is.
I'm not sure.
Well, see, here's the thing. I mean, again, not applying to the Tiny Forming Mars. I'm sure we could go to that. But since I brought Jen in, I got to have something she's familiar with because we only played Terraforming Mars a couple times. I'm sure if you saw it, you'd remember it.
No.
But obviously, we both know Pandemic. So here's the problem with Pandemic as I see it. That is the very specific Pandemic logo up in the top left corner of this cute little board. And logos specifically are a big no-no. But here's the deal. On the other hand, whoever did this, John Keane, I assume, or maybe John Keane just posted about this. Whoever created this is not making any money off of this. This is a fan-fueled project.
Well, that's true.
And
that's it. Are they making any money off of it?
Then no, of course not.
No.
You cannot do that. But if you're just doing it because you have a great love for the game and you want to, I really enjoy all the Star Trek, well, not all, but some of the Star Trek YouTube fan shows, ongoing voyages and stuff like that. And, these are people who literally dutifully recreate, the period costumes and make sets, and then they make new ongoing shows where, this is what happened to Kirk after the fight, and stuff like that. Uh-huh. And all that. And Paramount shut them down or introduced a lot of really strict rules. And there was one rule in there that I thought was perfectly appropriate because some of these people, their fan productions were becoming so big that they were running Kickstarter campaigns and saying, hey, if we can raise $250,000, we can put on another season of the show. And now you're really getting into iffy territory. Because I guess on one of them, by the way, some of the money we were raising for this was actually to pay a professional Hollywood producer. Okay, now people are actually making a living off of copyright infringement. And obvious, I would hope that's obvious to everybody that that's a line you can't cross. And so then that's when Paramount arguably came down like a hammer. But in the case of Tiny Forming Mars, I don't know the history, but I am certain the guy was not asking for money. He was just saying, look, I took some of the art, I took the logo, and I've repurposed it. I've come up with some new rules, and I put it out there. And hey, anybody can download this for free. I think that's totally legitimate, totally copacetic. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think that's totally fair use, and I decry anybody decrying the wrongness of that because it's totally right. I think it shows passion. I would imagine the Frixilisi... Oh, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say your names. They have the craziest last name. Frixililius. I bet you anything, they were probably tickled pink. And they said, oh my God, look, our work has inspired someone so much that they went out and did this. I'm sure Matt Leacock was tickled pink with Pandemic Express. So I say boo to any self-appointed... what do you call it? YouTube or board game geek.
Police person?
Self-policing. I can't think of the proper word, but whatever. Because I think it's not a rip-off of the game. It's a rip-off of the game if somebody charges you money. Otherwise, it's an homage. And people should take it in the spirit at which is intended. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is there any fan fiction of Siphon Filter out there? If so, I think that's awesome. And it makes me feel good that the work I have done would inspire people to produce their own stuff. So yeah, I don't have a problem with it at all, and I have a problem with people who do have a problem with it.
And actually, your advice used to be to people who wanted to get into the gaming industry was make something.
Yeah, exactly.
Make something that you're inspired by, and
so make something completely new, or make an extension of something that you love. If that's what inspires you, follow your heart, follow your inspiration. I would hope that, these little things could lead to, and I know they have. What's it? Scythe. Little Baby Scythe, something like that, was a fan thing where a guy loved Scythe, which is like a big, sprawling kind of quasi-war game Euro thing, and he wanted to play it with his kids, so he made a kid-friendly little version of it, and Jamie Stegmaier didn't say, I will ban you, I will destroy you. He said, hey, that's really cool. Let's actually produce that. That is the spirit with these things, and so, you know what? If the developers can be cool with it, I think you can be cool with it, random outrage machine of the internet. Alrighty. Stop being outraged. Your lives will be better if you look at things with kindness and charity in your heart rather than outrage and scorn. That is what I have found to be the case in my life. Mario continues. Chit chat with Tom Lehman, quote unquote. This is a note that slipped while I was trying to look how to formulate my question. But, okay, we did talk about Chit Chat with Tom Lehman before. I also feel like Tom is like the image of a grandpa online, but after reading and seeing some stuff from him, is it's just his way to speak in public, which does not work online. How much do you feel Res Arcana suffered with the backlash of that discussion? I think it suffered, and I think it's a real shame. I don't know if you remember this. The designer of Res Arcana, which is a game I very much respected and was very disappointed in, because I complained that, man, I wish there was a non-aggressive version of this. I wish we could take out the dragon cards and stuff like that. I then became the poster child for, Rahdo says it could be done, it should be done!
Let it be done!
Yes, and, they stormed the Bastille. Or at least, that's what some people would like to say. That never happened. Nobody ever... Because here's the thing. This drives me nuts. People always complain, you Care Bears coming in and demanding that we change all our games that we love so much so they can fit your weird little esoteric preferences. How dare you Care Bears come and want to make change? And here's the thing. We're Care Bears. That's not how we do. By our very nature, we don't want to push ourselves on anybody. Anytime it gets brought up, it's always, if you go back and look at the original post, it's always, boy, I really wish, or wouldn't it be cool if, or does anybody have any ideas about how? And here's the thing that's just so ironic, because people who love aggression in games, people who love the old head-to-head and, I steal your stuff, I drink your milkshake type people, they are always the first to jump to the conclusion that you're demanding I change my game. And if you actually read what we say, we don't, because we're Care Bears. But I think your predilections for an acceptance and an enjoyment to be had from conflict maybe leaches a little bit into the way you view others and their perspective on life. And maybe this is a slippery slope, and maybe Jen was just moaning that I should just drop it. Is that what that moaning was? I don't know.
I think that was a very astute observation.
Oh, okay, yes, it's because you see it over and over and over again. In threads like this, whether it's Res Arcana or a million other ones, people coming in and saying, "You Care Bears," just trying to change everything. And if you go and look at those people and what their favorite games are, that's always Blood Rage. Or equivalent games. And I think it is interesting. It is it's anecdotal, certainly, but it is anecdotal evidence that your predilection towards how you want to play games, what side, whether you're on the Care Bear side or the War Dog side, which is still something I'm trying to get to stick because I think it's perfect. War Dogs and Care Bears. It's perfect. That is, in some level, a reflection of how you comport yourself on a day-to-day basis, is the games you tend to gravitate towards. Sorry, that's not really your question. But yes, your question was, did Res Arcana get hurt? No doubt. Res Arcana probably lost, but here's the deal. It probably lost a dozen sales. Maybe a couple dozen. Because the vast majority of people who might ever decide to play Res Arcana have no idea that thread exists. Have no idea that entire forum exists. Have
no idea that you exist?
That have no idea that I exist. Or that Tom Lehman exists as anything other than words on the front of a box. Because it is very easy to forget in all the Sturm and Drang and drama of Board Game Geek that we represent just the tiniest little sliver of a super tiny little niche of a completely not ready for primetime pop culture hobby that we are all in. So I really don't think it's not like Entertainment Weekly. With a viewership of millions of people, decided to do a story about the dust-up between Rahdo and Tom Lehman.
And Dan Rather chose to cover it.
Yeah, on 60 Minutes or whatever. So I think it hurt, but not in a significant way. I mean, to be fair, actually, it did bleed far in that because it leapt from there to Reddit, and a lot more people saw it in Reddit. So maybe I should amend. Maybe they lost a couple hundred units of sales, ultimately. It's unlikely, but it's possible. And that's a shame because it's such a brilliant game and so many people are denying themselves what could be one of their favorite games of all time based on just dumb little internet drama that was over before it started. But still, I don't think that is going to put the publisher out of business. But still, you know what? Hey, a startup publisher, every sale counts. So yeah, it was kind of a shame that whole thing happened. And I'm glad most people, besides you, Mario, you keep bringing it up. Hopefully everybody's moved on. The expansion's coming out. It got a lot of top 10s of the years, which is totally deserved. But anyway, moving right along, we've got Michael, who wonders, what are the 3 or 5, if we're feeling ambitious, changes or improvements we would like to see in Frosthaven? Hey, Honey Pie, guess what? Frosthaven is coming out. It's the sequel to Gloomhaven. It's not set in the town of Gloomhaven, it's set in the town of Frosthaven. So, This is poorly worded. Let me reword it. Hey, Honey Pie, what would you like to see improved about Gloomhaven?
Less minutia.
Less minutia. But you don't care. I deal with all the minutia.
I know, but it's still a lot of minutia.
Yeah.
And you still have to deal with it.
Yeah.
So it slows down the gameplay.
But, a lot of the game is in that minutia, having to deal with those. Are you confident that you would enjoy Gloomhaven as much if it were simplified and streamlined down to Legends of Andor? Because Legends of Andor is pretty simple. Oh, we just move around, we flip over some tokens, we do some events, and we just have the puzzle of trying to deal with all these monsters are going to hopscotch each other and get to the castle.
Yeah.
And that's a deep game, but it's really pretty simple for the most part.
Yeah.
So, if Gloomhaven got simplified down to something more like that, do you think we would enjoy it as much?
Not that simple, maybe.
Yeah.
Just a little more simple.
And that's the only thing you gotta say. Otherwise, Gloomhaven is flawless. It's perfect.
God, it's been 2 years.
It has unfortunately been 2 years since we played. But we played it a lot.
We did play it a lot. Mm-hmm. Well, there were things that I found upsetting. Like, I couldn't continue on with a character that I loved.
Right, but don't you think the game is better for it?
No, I wanted to keep my character. I didn't want to lose my character. I like knowing what my stuff does.
Uh-huh.
So,
but you would rather play one character for 300 hours instead of 5 characters for 50 hours a pop.
Well, that doesn't work out, but anyway.
Well, yeah. Fans of the show know math is not my strong suit.
Yep. I don't know. I just really missed my first character, and I was bummed when I had.
You could have rolled another one, and you could have considered it, the son, and you could have seen how that character evolved differently. You didn't have to choose a completely new one. Didn't even occur to you. No, you.
I thought once you played a character, you had to move on to a different character.
No,
that character was played.
Well, no. That particular character is played, but when you create a new character, you could create a new version of that same character type. Oh. You'd give it a different name.
Yeah.
And of course, you'd start leveling that character up again all the way from the beginning, but you could make different choices because all these characters have several different ways they could go and evolve.
I hadn't thought about that, to be honest. I think you were so cult of the new. I do think about it.
I'm trying. Again, it's been 2 years. I do think there is something where you are incentivized via some means.
It was that if you did a new character, you started out like at level 3 or something.
No, but I think if you said no, I want to stay the same class type, that would start out at level 3 as well. I do think. If you do, but I think I don't remember now what, but I think there was something. It's like the more new types of players, more things unlock. There's something like that. So again, I don't remember these specifics because it's been a couple of years, but you are incentivized to choose a new one, but you do not have to.
Okay, well, I don't know. What's new about Frosthaven then?
Not much is known. It's going to go on Kickstarter in March. It won't be out till 2021.
Not much is known.
It's set in a new town, and apparently a big thing is Gloomhaven, the town, didn't really change much. Mostly there's just like, hey, Gloomhaven is getting more prosperous, so you have that prosper and more things get unlocked. But now apparently I think we help build Frosthaven. Because it's a frontier town, and there's more. Hey, because of what we did, the city itself changes in significant ways.
When are we going to have Cheer Haven or Joy Haven or something that sounds a little
instead
nicer?
of Gloomy Haven and Freezing Haven?
Yes.
When can we have Tropical Haven?
Yes. Happy Haven.
So, is that something you would like to see? Would you like it to be? Because I imagine it'll be still a dark fantasy game.
Yeah, I would like to see a happy fantasy game.
Okay. But Tolkien is dark fantasy.
Yeah, but it has a lot about friendships and fellowships and working togethers.
Yeah, we don't follow the exploits of a bunch of mercenaries who have only come together to make money, as an example.
Right.
So you're saying you would like to see more aspirational, upbeat stuff and a little bit less cynical world building.
Yes.
All right, that's fair. That's totally true. That's it's in the title, Gloom. Yeah.
A haven of gloom.
Yes, and now it's a haven of frost.
Yeah, maybe.
So, okay, so you would like to see a little bit more sunny haven.
Yep.
A little bit less gloomy haven.
Yep.
All right. And you were saying you would like to not have to retire your character ever.
Well, I didn't have to retire it, but remember there was just absolutely no reason to keep on with her.
Well, no, you got into a situation where you were kind of screwed.
Yeah.
As I recall.
Yeah, because I couldn't.
Because you hit the level cap, and from that point on, earning experience got you nothing, and so you instantly lost interest.
Yep.
But because of the choices you had made, it was very, very difficult to retire that character at that point. I don't remember what specifically happened.
I think we did a couple of wiggles to make it acceptable somehow.
Right, yeah, I forget what happened. But but you would want him to drop that idea of retirement for characters.
Well, yeah, it's like when I was playing EverQuest.
Yeah.
You didn't ever have to retire your character. You could just keep getting better and better and better and building on your strengths, and you knew what your character was going to do and how. Yeah, I like that.
But you don't like learning a new character and firing different synapses? You don't think you'll get burned out?
Maybe, but I could always come back to that character.
Mm-hmm. Well, again, you can by creating a new version of that character. You could create a new version and level up the exact same way if you wanted.
Yeah, that's not going to be any fun. I've already done all that stuff.
Right, which is
I don't want to have to redo all the...
Which is you admitting it's fun to play different characters.
It's not fun to redo the stuff I've already done. I just want to build on it.
Okay. All right, so you are officially lobbying Isaac Childress for the removal of character retirement in Frosthaven.
If it can't be done, it can't be done.
Of course it can.
Well, because then you could end up with some uber strong character that somebody's...
It would be a challenge for him to deal with that, yes.
Yeah.
EverQuest can do it because they had a team of 100 people generating new content.
Yeah. I'm just saying I liked that. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying Gloomhaven or Frosthaven has.
The question was changes or improvements.
Okay.
So far, you want Sunnyhaven, and you want a ban on retirement, mandatory retirement.
Mandatory retirement.
You would rather see it, carrot rather than stick. You would rather be more about enticement rather than requirement.
Maybe it could be like a Jadzia Dax thing.
Well, it is.
It is
exactly that. Because in Gloomhaven, you're the symbiote. You're the slug.
You get
inserting yourself into the wherever they get inserted into the chest cavity of all these poor characters. Like, the slug's in me now.
Yeah.
That is literally what happens.
Well,
and you carry your thoughts and feelings and experiences from one character to another.
Okay, that's a good way to look at it.
Wow. Is this just because we watched that Deep Space Nine documentary, so it's fresh in your mind?
Yeah.
All right. So, what you suggest is, in Frosthaven, he has to play up the Dax to make you more comfortable with it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that was 2. You need 1 more.
What?
Michael demanded 3 or 5 if you're ambitious.
Oh, my God.
1 more. I'm surprised you're not doing the obvious one.
Which is
It's so obvious.
What?
Very rarely could we sit down and play Gloomhaven without spending at least 2 hours in a given mission. Would you not like some shorter missions?
Yeah, that would be nice.
It's just kind of the no-brainer. I mean, it's a long game. It requires
It's been a long time since we played it, though.
Yeah.
Right.
We played it a lot,
Yeah.
and we got good at it. And still, it's designed to be a 2+ hour game, even with only 2 players. And honestly, personally, I would rather sit there for 2 hours and play 2 individual adventures rather than 1 long one. That's just me. I like long ones occasionally, but I would prefer shorter. Now, I understand why you don't want to do shorter, because there's so much setup for the game. It takes so much time to set up. You're going to sit there and play for 2 or 3 hours. But still, I'd rather go to 3 places instead of 1. That's me. That's my big one.
Actually, I agree with that.
Yeah.
I do.
Yeah, because, we were getting to the point where we just kind of left it. We just left it set up.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of people would. And you're like, hey, let's just play a quick hour-long, let's do a little quick hour-long mission. That would be nice. It's not necessary. I'm fine with a longer. It's one of the rare games that we accepted as being so long because it was so good. For me, it was a good answer, Sunny Pie.
Do you have to come up with 3 yourself, or are you just going to...
I gave you your 3rd one. So
thanks for rescuing me.
My single biggest complaint in all of Gloomhaven.
Actually, I would have also said something about a huge amount of setup, but that did never affect me because you would do it and I would just come sit down.
Exactly. So. But there is a fair bit. Although I don't know. Again, it's like I was saying. Yeah, you could lose a lot of the minutia and streamline it. You could lose a lot of the setup and streamline it, but a lot of the joy of that game is because it is such a big, over-the-top experience with so much stuff.
Yeah.
And it would be fundamentally different. Would it be worse? I don't know. It might be. But there's specific things like the thing that really ticked me off more than anything else.
Ticked you off?
Was, remember, for a little while I played the class that could create rocks. I was a rock monster and I could bring the ceiling or smash things up. For a while we were playing it wrong. Because I totally missed. There's just one dumb, stupid little rule that says you're never allowed to create rock barriers that would prevent enemies from being able to travel around. You always have to leave enemies a channel that they can move around freely. And that is so dumb. And, and it's so, for me, when I realized that, ruined the fantasy of that character. And I thought that was a really poor choice on Isaac's part. That he put, it's interesting. I would imagine if Isaac were here and I were to put it to him, why did you do that? You ruined the, Savis, I think, or forget whichever name of the character is. He would argue, look, I didn't want to create a whole bunch of edge case rules. And that's laudable. But the ironic thing is, his whole game is full of exactly that. That's exactly what his game is. And there were really simple ways to do that. Basically, enemies just had to treat the rocks that I create like obstacles. They'll go around them if they can, and if not, they will move through them and take damage. That's all it had to be. It was like a super simple rule. And then, of course, it would probably take some tweaking and modifying, because then he might be too powerful and stuff like that. But that would have been, to me, that is a poster child for... favoring one approach to development over another. And I don't remember. That's the one I remember. But there were occasionally things where, okay, this is a bit too gamey. And I wish he would have done the other thing to have more verisimilitude in the world. By which I mean not breaking my connection because, oh, well, this special rule says we have to do X, Y, or Z. Those things popped up every once in a while, and I would like to see Isaac redouble his efforts to minimize those wherever possible. Like I said, that keeping a travel lane free was the worst, but there were other ones like that. And whenever I saw them, I was like, ugh, man, I don't like that. Let's see, what else? Again, the length. To me, that's my only real complaint about the game. This is a dumb one, but it's huge. It's huge, 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 huge. Because we talked about Andor earlier. Mm-hmm. Andor is the only game I've ever seen this, and I'm sure there's other ones that have done it, but every game should do this. If you have a game where you have standees representing your characters or your monsters, make them two-sided. Make the art look and have a front and a back. It's a dumb little thing. But it really helps with that verisimilitude. That makes that world feel more real. When we play Legends of Andor, we don't have to do it. But we always adjust the thralls and the dogs and all that stuff facing the direction they're going to go. Because we can. Because Michael Menzel did the very tiny bit of extra work of doing a front and a back portrait of the monsters. And there's no reason not to do that. You're printing on both sides anyway. It's a little bit more work, a little bit more cost, but it so improves the atmosphere to be able to see which way enemies are facing. To make it feel more like, oh, I'm sneaking up behind them and I'm going to backstab them because I'm actually standing at their back. It's the dumbest little thing, but it has so much positive impact. And I assume Frosthaven is not going to be a wash with 500 minis. I assume he's going to do the right thing, because it was the right thing to not do a bajillion minis like Zombicide, but instead do standees. But please, Isaac, please, wherever you are, feel me as I say this and send it out through the force. Spend the extra money, do the backsides of your standees. It'll be so much better. So that was it for me. Alrighty, I can't make it to 5 because the game is just too good. Haha. Let's see. But really, more than anything else, game length. More short missions, please. Alrighty. Gerald, yes. Gerald, a.k.a. G-Rad, he would like to point out. Once you do an email, you get hooked, I guess. All right. Once you do one email, you get hooked, and I guess... he's hooked. All right. He drives 3 hours every day, so he loves the longer podcasts. He's saying, don't shut up. Draw it out. All right. Anyway, let's see. He was wondering what our top 3 dice placement games were this is for me. You're not going to say. Can you think of any game you really like, honey, where you do dice worker placement? Where you don't have workers, you have dice?
Is it like where you put it? You have to have a 3 to put it in this slot, and then
it could be.
You could do that.
Instead of putting meeples or discs or whatever, you use dice to activate actions.
Yes.
Oh, well, okay. What is it? What can you think of?
I can't think of the name of it, but basically, it's one of our older favorite games.
Yeah.
And there's the a religion track, and then there's a night track, and you have to have the certain color die to be able to do the action.
Ooh.
Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Oh, you're talking about Trois.
Trois.
You're talking about Trois. I was going to say, yeah, Trois is number 1, and you know it's number 1 because Jen actually dimly remembered playing it. No, I mean that in a good way. I mean, because it's a big deal if you can remember. Because we haven't played Trois since we lived in the castle. Since we lived in Mdina. Okay. And that's a long time, but you remember it.
There's another one.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
A little dice tray thing, and then you have to have the number to put in the right spot, and it indicates what your guy can do. Ooh. It's kind of a dungeon-y thing. Oh,
you're thinking of, and that's a great example. You're thinking of claustrophobia.
See, I can think of a few things.
That's great, honey pie. All right, that's 2. That's impressive. If you could do one more, I don't have to do anything.
Oh, okay. Let me think. Roll dice and use them as my actual markers.
You put dices on space. Or dice on spaces. You're going to... Well,
I feel like there was a recent one that was like a Native American Lewis and Clark-y kind of thing that we did with dice.
Yes, there was.
But I don't remember anything more than that.
Did it use dice? I think you're right. I think it did. And, what was it? I can't think of the name either. But obviously it's not going to win because neither of us can actually think of the name.
Okay.
But you're going to kick yourself for not remembering one of your favorite games of all time. Here, let me. You don't have to open your eyes. I'll mime it for you. Shake a, shake a, shake a, shake a, slam. What's that tell you?
I don't know, but I love it. So that would have to be either Escape.
No.
Or
shake a, slam. Peek behind the thingy. Take the die. Put it on the thing.
Oh, Roll for the Galaxy.
Roll for the Galaxy. Exactly. And mine were going to be Roll for the Galaxy, Twa, and probably Black Angel. But Claustrophobia, good call. And Black Angel, that's not really fair because Black Angel is basically Roll for or Twa 2. So if I put Black Angel aside, ooh, that gets tough. I'd have to think about it. It wouldn't be Claustrophobia, although I really do like Claustrophobia quite a bit. Let's see. Let's just go and do a scan. Because actually, GRAD, you could look this up for yourself the next time you're at a computer by going to rank.rahdo.com. Oh, role player. Remember?
Nope.
Role player, where the whole point of the game is you're trying to create a fantasy character. You have your strength, your constitution. You roll the dice. We're drafting for them, and you have to put the dice in the slots because you've a perfect 18 constitution. Oh, I'd have to show it to you to remember it. But yeah, those would be the three.
Oh yes, I do remember it. Yes.
Yeah, we love that one. Arguably not exactly a worker placement game, but close enough. Okay. Next up, Honey, we just talked about my favorite mechanism, which is dice worker placement. What is your favorite gameplay mechanism?
Cool doodahs.
Right. She means gimmicks, like the wheel in Teotihuacan or whatever. Or Zolkin. But that's cheating.
No, it's
an
not.
actual gameplay mechanism.
Oh. I don't know. You tell me.
All right.
I'll agree with you.
Let's look at your list of favorite games of all time. I will do a search for Rahdo Gen Top 10.
26.
All right, and see. So, and of course, this is a while ago. Your top 10 has probably changed a bit, but, alrighty. Yeah, this is from as of 2014, Honey Pie. Your 10 favorite games were Dungeon Pets, Agricola, Escape Curse of the Temple, Zolkin the Mayan Calendar, Amerigo, another gimmick game with the tower and the cubes and all that, Bruges, Pandemic, Trajan.
Pandemic was like at 7?
Yep, number 7.
Oh my goodness.
Hawaii, and Dominion. So, there's 10 games. At one point you said you love above all else. Now, you've got 2 worker placement games in there, Agricola and Dungeon Pets. Okay. So you just want to say worker placement. But none of the other ones are really worker placement in the traditional sense. You've got deck building with Dominion.
Yeah.
Would you say deck building is your favorite mechanism? I mean, no. You like it, obviously.
I do like it, but...
you got Trajan. Trajan is a Mancala. You know, the whole pick a bunch up and then drop them off and do the last thing.
Yep.
But you wouldn't say Mancala is your favorite? It's just you really love Trajan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But adjacent to Mancalas are rondels. The whole, hey, my next action has to be one of the 3 next moves, unless I want to pay more and go further. Yeah. What about rondels?
I do like rondels.
Rondels are great. Yeah. They're in my top 10.
Because then that's a little bit like the sandbox limiting thing.
That's the very nature of them.
Yeah.
All right. Pandemic. What mechanism? You know, it's obviously moving around the board, but Pandemic has set collection. The idea, really, at its heart, Pandemic is a set collection game because you got to get those 5 cards and take them to a place. And everything else is secondary to doing that. So what about set collection as a mechanism?
No.
Too broad. Okay. Wow, she's literally grimacing at the thought of set collection now. Bruges. I'm surprised. I'm looking back. I've totally forgot. Bruges. Can you think? You remember Bruges, of course.
Yeah, you could either do this or you could do that.
Okay, here's the thing about Bruges. Yeah, Bruges is probably the ultimate multi-use card game, where that card in Bruges can be used for like 5 different things.
That's what I like best.
Multi-use cards?
Yep.
Multi-use cards is in my top 10. Multi-use cards is your favorite gameplay mechanism of all time.
I'm going to say yes.
Good answer.
Was there anything else, though? Because out of all those things, I think that would be my favorite.
The other one that really jumped out at me, Zolkin is a worker placement game as well, of course. Okay. But, I mean, you didn't grimace when I said worker placement, but you didn't... Yes, of course, worker placement.
Well, that's just such a standard thing. I don't know that you could say that.
The other one I would have called out from Amerigo, of course, really, you love it because of the tower. But a big part of Amerigo is the Tetris tile laying. And I was going to say polyomino Tetris tile laying. Or tile laying in general. Tile laying is, I think, my second favorite, if I recall correctly, from my top 10 mechanisms. Because tile laying is just, it's so satisfying. I mean, you actually build something.
Yeah.
And it's like, it has jigsaw puzzle-esque features to it. So it has a nostalgia factor and a lot of stuff going on. And then, I mean, but you can take it one step further and really ratchet up the nostalgia by saying, oh, not just tiles, but Tetris-shaped tiles. And there's a million different things that can be done, whether it's Feast for Odin or Amerigo or whatever. But I have not convinced you that tile laying or Tetris. So you're sticking with multi-use cards.
Yep.
I cannot fault that. You heard it here first, folks. Jen's favorite gameplay mechanism of all time, multi-use cards.
It's a little bit of work to get there, but we got it.
Alrighty. Okay, next up, G-Rad wants some input on legacy games. G-Rad absolutely loves legacy games. And in podcast 52, we mentioned how we don't like legacy games because of time, but our number one game of 2020 is, or most anticipated, is a legacy game, My City. Can I elaborate more on what's changed? Okay, I don't remember what the heck I said in episode 52. I don't even know what episode this is. Are we in 57 now? I don't know. I'd be willing to bet I didn't say that we don't like legacy games, because we both love legacy games.
Yeah.
It's our favorite thing. We love legacy games. Probably what I said, or at least what I meant to say, is legacy games cause us trouble. Because most games, we just play a little bit and then I can film it and then I can move on to the next thing. And I am keeping up with my obligations. A legacy game, we got to play 6, 8, 10, 12 times. And that creates a lot of trouble, a lot of problems for me. Because while I'm playing that game 8, 10, 12 times, the other half dozen games I got to get played this week are backing up, and it is creating a queue, and it is going to, a dam is going to burst, and then I'm going to have a lot of catch-up work to do. And so, as a professional...
It's almost unfair, the amount of love a legacy game gets.
Yeah, it is true, actually. I mean, I should play all games 8, 10, 12, 14 times before I film a game. I'd have a lot less goofs. I'll guarantee you that in my videos.
Yeah.
But I can't do it because I got to move forward. But legacy games demand it because I can't actually make a real comment of the game if I haven't seen what all it's going to unlock. I could cheat and just open all the boxes or rip open the envelopes, but I don't want to do that because I love them so much. So, no, we love them. It's our favorite thing. Easily.
Yep.
But they cause a lot of grief for us because of the unique circumstances I find myself in this chapter of my life.
Unfortunately, we also have to tend to rush through them, so we don't get quite the amount
Exactly.
of enjoyment.
We have to binge them. I hate binge watching TV shows. I hate binge playing games as well. Yeah. I would happily just play, hey, we're going to play it once a week. And it's going to be fun, and then I can't wait to see what happens next time we play. That would be my preference.
But you also can't afford to wait 12 weeks.
Exactly, because I got to move.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so yes, I am very excited about My City. And I'm also filled with a little bit of dread about My City. Because it's going to, I remember looking it up, My City I think requires 24 sessions.
Oh my goodness.
That happened with the one we were playing in England, Rise of Queensdale. That one we had to play a ton, but it was okay because we were in the middle of moving internationally, and we pretty much had nothing else to play anyway. Remember, it was the one. It was a dice work replacement game. Actually, it had tons of stickers. You had your sticker. You put a beard on your blonde lady, and
yeah,
it had ton. Yeah. So that would be the elaboration. I probably misspoke a bit in episode 52.
Well, you just didn't clarify enough.
Alrighty. And let's see. General question. It looks like that's going to be all right. So that's it for gaming stuff. Moving right along to Stacy. Honey Pie, this is directed to you. Stacy wants to know, what is your favorite Alexander Pfister game? Right. I know, Jen. I would imagine.
You know me?
I do. Hey, who are you?
There's a lady sitting next to you.
I'm going to say her favorite is probably Isle of Skye. Do you know what I mean when I say Isle of Skye? Isle of Skye, the game...
that goes around and then there's... I think we played it first and I didn't like it, and then after we played it a couple more times I did like it.
No, you're thinking of Glenmore. Understandably, because they're both set in the Scottish Highlands. Isle of Skye is the one where you get 3 tiles behind your little shield.
Okay.
You assign prices to 2 of them and you destroy one. Then we reveal, and the prices you've assigned is what I can give you, or it's what you're spending yourself, and then you do the tile laying stuff.
Yep, okay.
Yeah. And we played it not too long ago with an expansion, I think. Maybe not. I played the expansion with somebody not too long ago. So, I suspect that one. How do you feel about Isle of Skye now that you remember it?
No, I liked it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I suggested because it's short. You're in and out in an hour. It doesn't take 2+ hours. Do you remember Great Western Trail? Which is you're wrangling cows, and the whole board is a gigantic rondel, and you gotta move from the bottom of the board up to the top of the board and put them on the train.
Yeah, and then there's teepees that you can
make there's like side paths you can go on.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah.
That was good.
Do you remember it enough to say whether you like it more than Isle of Skye or not?
Nope.
Okay.
I'd say I like them equally because I do remember it.
Yeah. More recently, we played, there's Oh My Goods, which is the really simple little card game where the cards, they represent the stuff you're making in your factories, but they also, the market comes out and you have to keep drawing cards until enough daytime cards come out, and this is everything we have to run our little engines. But we played it more recently, Newdale, which and then most recently, of course, there's Maracaibo, which I named Game of the Year.
Ooh, did I play that?
Yeah, you did.
Maracaibo.
Yeah. It was the pirate game where, again, it was another rondel, and we were racing as fast as we could, and we were playing it, around Christmas time.
Oh yeah.
And it was going as fast as you could, and it was kind of frustrating for you because I just went really fast, and you went, no, I want to go very slow and do everything.
Yes.
And it had all the story stuff.
Yep. That was good.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Well,
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, I know. I mean, when I talked about this in my final thoughts, I was really talking about Jen. That if Jen had her way, Maracaibo would take 5 hours every time you play it because she always just moves forward one on the rondel because it's a rondel where instead of moving 1, 2, or 3, you can move up to 7 spaces, and you're incentivized to get around the rondel as fast as possible. So you can't really say, right?
No, sorry.
She likes them all. If you were going to play one though, I think you'd probably want to play Isle of Skye.
I'd love to play Isle of Skye.
Mm-hmm. Would you? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, thank heavens, Stacy didn't ask you to rank them.
Don't do that.
Yeah,
that will take all day.
But those are some of her favorites. Oh, Blackout Hong Kong. How did you feel about that one?
I don't remember it.
We played it a few years ago. It was, the whole board was black because it was Hong Kong, and we were emergency aid people, and we had to go around and deliver goods. But the main part was you had cards that represented all the members of your crew that were running around, and you played them to the bottom of the area. And once you built up enough of them, that would be a crew that you could send out. Yeah.
I don't remember that at all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
If you saw it. But I guess that's something. It didn't stick in Jen's mind as much. Neither did Oh My Goods or probably his little games. I'm surprised you remember so fondly. I mean, do you just remember Great Western Trail because we played it with Karthik, though?
Maybe.
Uh-huh.
Maybe.
I think that might be what's putting that one up so high. Because my gut would have been she loves Isle of Skye above all of them if you were to put them all in front of her and she were to remember all of them. Just for more than anything else, because, I mean, I do think it's arguably his cleverest game. It's his clearest, simplest, cleanest design, because it's just all about that tiling and that ever so, oh my gosh, what to do? How to score these things? Don't buy my thing. Oh, now I've got money, I'll buy your thing type thing. Alrighty. Okay, oops. And, oh my gosh, was that it? Hold on a second. Yeah, that was it for game-related questions for Jen.
I needed another cup of tea.
Which means Jen's going to go get a cup of tea, and I am going to stop recording for a second, and then we'll be right back with what you all wanted. Or maybe you do, maybe you don't, I don't know. I have no metrics to see when people actually stop listening. I really do wonder how many people just say, oh, they're getting to the personal stuff. Let's bail.
Yep.
But if in fact you're one of those types, well, thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Questions to questions@rahdo.com. Have a nice day. Talk to you there. So long. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
But hang on and we'll get personal. Okay, we're back. Jen has some tea. Honey, what type of tea do you got there?
Oh, it's a lovely herbal one called Sunset Almond.
Sunset Almond.
Yes, by Stash? Celestial Seasonings, I think.
Mm-hmm. I do smell the almonds. I don't know if I smell the sunset, though. Okay. Stephen, first of all, would like to preface this by saying this is not a question.
Okay.
But I'm going to do it anyway. Teotihuacan is a game that you reference a lot in your podcast. I didn't really know how to say it, but I knew you were saying it wrong. I've tried to say it after listening to the correct modern pronunciation. I still have trouble. I don't mean this as a criticism. I'm sorry. But I have to send this, as it's nails on the chalkboard. I greatly appreciate all of the knowledge and wisdom you've imparted on me. Keep up the good work. Here's a link to the correct pronunciation. Now here's the deal, Stephen. When I did my video for Teotihuacan, I actually spent some time trying to figure out how to pronounce it correctly myself. Because I do try to get it right wherever possible. And as I've complained many times in the past, it is maddening to me that publishers just don't do the tiniest bare bit of work and put a pronunciation guide on the first page of their rulebooks or the back of the box. Why do they not do this? Why do they not want people to say the name of their game correctly? And here's the thing. I think I do say it right, or I say it right more than most people, because most people say Teotihuacan. Or Teotihuacan, they say Teotihuacan. And I remember very specifically when I did searches, I think I ultimately went to Forvo, and it's supposed to be Teo, not Teo. But anyway, you've given a link to Wikipedia's pronunciation, so let's go and listen to that now. I don't know if the microphone's picking that up. I'm going to crank it. Here we go.
Teotihuacan.
And Teo. It's Teo. Now, I will give you it. I am not putting the correct emphasis on the correct syllable. Which is one of Jen's favorite quotes of all time.
Yep.
Ari, what was that quote from? Do you remember what it's from?
Mike Myers.
Yes, it was Mike Myers.
In that Love movie, the groovy man.
No, it was not him in Austin Powers.
No?
No, it was not. It was him and Goop Lady, Pepper Potts, Gwyneth Paltrow in a romantic comedy, I think, or a workplace comedy where she was becoming a air flight attendant, and he just had a quick walk-on role where he was giving him proper elocution, and he said, "You put the wrong emphasis on the wrong syllable," and it was in the trailer, and I think that's really why it stuck with you.
Yeah, I love it.
But anyway, you're right. I'm kind of mangling because I think I say Teotihuacan when in fact it's
Teotihuacan.
It's Teotihuacan. Teotihuacan. But honestly, that's a bit harder to do in casual. I remember I do push that Teo instead of Teo like everybody else, including the developers, because I eventually found video of them saying Teo when it's Teo. But yeah, I say Teotihuacan. So I just kind of cut off the end. I go Wakan instead. Wakan. I go down instead of up. I don't know what the actual terms are. But I think I'm still closer than most in the industry. So, but you actually have real questions now. Alrighty. First of all, I'm sorry I missed this. You had a game-related question, which I totally missed. I didn't classify this correctly. So we're going to have a game question in the personal section. What's Jen's and my favorite gameplay mechanism or group of mechanisms that work well in tandem? Now, of course, we just covered favorite mechanisms earlier because somebody else asked that. But you did add that work well in tandem. So what did we say? Your favorite your favorite gameplay mechanism is multi-use cards. Mine is dice worker placement. What do you think that works well with? All right, Jen said, "I will not play your game."
Game playing?
Yeah, but like, would you like to? Do you think multi-use cards would work well with worker placement? Since you had like 3 worker placements in your top 10 that we did. Jen refuses to engage. Sorry, Stephen, you get nothing. Send it to questions@rahdo.com and I'll try to answer that. But really, we did actually hit your main question of favorite gameplay mechanisms. Alrighty, but personal question, Honey Pie.
Yeah.
How are your parents doing? I don't know, it didn't do it to you or me, so I guess it's for both of us. How are our parents doing? And have we gotten a chance to play any lighter games with my mother? Although we could do your mother as well, I'm sure.
No, we just played a great game with my mom.
Yep, yeah. Let's see, parents. My mom is actually doing better. She's been getting on the treadmill pretty regularly for the last couple of weeks. She's doing really good about that after, we've been here for over a year now. Actually, what prompted that? Because she's had that treadmill for years, and it was in her room. And then one day I noticed, it's out in the living room now. Did you prompt all that? Or did she want to do it? Or what happened?
Yeah, so we just decided we wanted to try and lose a little bit of weight.
Uh-huh.
And so we thought if we just would do that while we're watching TV at night, then that would do it.
Yeah.
So that's what prompted it.
I mean, it was set up in her room specifically to do that, and she never used it. But now that it's out in the living room...
Yeah, I think it's just easier to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But of course, you're not hitting it near as much as her. But you just had major surgery, or eyeball surgery anyway.
I do it 4 times longer than she does, so I only have to do it a quarter the amount of time.
Okay. So yeah, she's doing pretty well. What did she just find out? She just found out some medical thing. Oh, brittle bones or something like that. And we have to go in for MRIs and whatnot. But, on the whole, things are continuing. I mean, on the whole, I think she's definitely doing better. Jen's parents, we were down in Arizona for a week visiting them. They're doing fine. Jen's dad is getting a little bit on the older side. He gets a little wobbly now. So that's kind of a bummer. And it's one of the reasons, Jen wanted to spend more time with him and stuff like that. And I guess you're planning on doing some kind of trip?
We'll see, yeah. Dad wants to do a fishing trip this autumn, but I'm a little bit afraid of that.
Because he's a little wobbly.
He's a bit
and you don't want to be solely responsible in case he falls.
Yeah.
Right. Because whenever you're with him, you're also with Nancy, your stepmom.
Yep.
And so you're still trying to figure out what to do about that?
Yeah,
or?
I'm not sure of what we're going to do. Actually, I talked to my sister about it, and hopefully we can get her and her husband and the kids, my niece and nephew, and we'll all do a big family thing.
So you're not out in the woods by yourself with him?
Yeah. I mean, I could not lift him up a hill if he fell down a hill.
I see, yeah.
That sort of thing. It's just, and what would I do? I'd have to leave him, and I'd have to drive to somewhere and get some help. And,
Jeez.
It's
my gosh.
really frightening to think of. So
Wow.
And he's talking about being in the boonies in Idaho.
Because that's what he likes to do.
Yeah, he likes to go fly fishing. So that kind of scares me.
Yeah, but that's kind of a tough topic. Well, Dad, I'm afraid you're going to fall down. And I don't want to have to abandon you in the woods. So, no. No.
Well, let's see if we can get a few more people around. And then, Ron could certainly pick him up, no problem.
That's true.
My brother-in-law is, 6'8", I think?
He's taller than me.
And extremely fit at the moment because they're building a house. So he's moving timber around and pounding nails and whatever. So, Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Jen's mom, we just got through with another visit for her. We've been visiting her quite a bit.
Yep.
And nice. And let's see. And you asked about Did you ask about games? Have you played any games with my mom? We mentioned earlier we played Thing of the Jig, just one, because Jen had gotten it the day before Thanksgiving. Why did you even take that to Thanksgiving?
Just one.
Why did you take just one to Thanksgiving?
Because I wanted to bring something to play with.
Why didn't you take Dixit?
I don't know.
Because,
because we'd just been at BGG, and I was asking people at BGG what their favorite game was that they had no idea was out there, but they played and they really enjoyed, and lots of people said just one.
Oh, okay. All right. So you'd gotten the advice, we ordered it, it showed up the day before, and you took it down. But since I wasn't going to be there, Jen was going to have to teach it, so I taught it to her by playing it with Mom. And Mom said, okay, well, since you need me to do it, I guess we'll do it. And we played a 3-player game. And have we played? I think that's the only game we've played with her since we've been here. Is that right?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. Every time Jen's mom comes, we finagle her into playing one thing, and she'll politely go along with one, and then demur and say, "Okay, I think that was enough. I think you've had your time. Just one more game. Come on, we got plenty more." And I'm always, Emily, you don't have to say yes. You can say no.
But this time she played a game twice with us.
Yep. Alrighty, Forbidden Forest or something Forest, Legendary Forest, which is a nice little tile there. Alrighty, let's see. And Steven says his heart goes out to us both. He enjoys everything that we put out, including the personal stuff. Marriage is hard, and hearing the two of us interact gives him a better model of how to act in his.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Steven. Okay. Next up, Justin has an email entitled Picard.
Picard!
He then adds, "Dude, have you seen it? Thoughts? P.S. Sorry, the mail is so lengthy."
What?
He's joking. He put in a smiley after that.
Okay.
All right, yes, we have both seen we just watched episode 2 last night after Jen was finally able to open her eyes. I had to wait a whole day and avoid the internet everywhere because of it.
Internet popped
Honey, how do you like Picard?
I love it.
Do you love it?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Go on.
Although, actually, to be honest, I didn't realize that they were Romulans at first. I thought they were Vulcans, and I thought, what are these Vulcans doing? They're just so colorful and everything.
No, the
Oh, did I just spoil something? Sorry.
No, you didn't. I mean, well, they're major characters. You see them like in the first scene.
Okay.
And other people would have confusion. In the very first scene you see with him, he has a, he's, it was in all the trailers. You know what, folks? In case you haven't, we'll come back to Picard at the end. All right. So in case you want, so we can talk a bit more openly in case people haven't seen the first couple of episodes. So we'll come back to Picard, but for now, Jen loves it. And there are Romulans. Okay. But Star Trek, of course, it'll be Romulans. Alrighty. Next up, Henrik. Oh, we'll have to come back to that. It's the personal wisdom of the month. Henrik asked for the wisdom of the month. We'll come back to that at the end, too. Next up, the Rosemary says, how are the chickens?
Oh.
Are they laying yet?
Oh.
Oh.
Was that the two questions?
And then, are you going to be a Gamestorm or Dice Tower West this year?
Okay.
Looking for more Jen Glass if you do.
Woo,
we will not be at Gamestorm, which I think I mentioned earlier. We will be at Boardgame Geek Con in Vegas.
Vegas.
Yes.
In what, like 3 weeks or something, isn't it?
I think it's sometime in February. I don't know when, but yeah.
Yeah, it's coming up pretty quick.
Yep.
Right. The chickens are good in that they are alive. But for whatever reason, they almost all of them molted in the last month or two. And so we've been getting like 1 to 3 eggs a day out of 12 chickens.
We have 12 chickens.
And, which is ridiculous. And I tell them that.
And they say, walk?
Walk. But on the other hand, and it's not like they use those feathers very much because they were just born in, I think,
For folks who don't
March.
know, molting is something that chickens do, what, once a year? Twice a year?
Once a year, usually.
Once a year, where they basically slough off and grow new feathers. And during this time, most of their biological processes are devoted to the feather growing, and therefore they really pare back
eggs.
on the egg laying.
They don't lay any eggs. So, yeah, so basically I've been frustrated a little bit, but they are so beautiful. I got a wide variety of different colors and shaped chickens and all that. So they have been entertaining. They've been keeping that part of their bargain, even if they did look a bit scruffy while they were molting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're doing fine. And I think one day last week we actually got 5 eggs.
5 out of 12.
5. And then yesterday we got 3.
3.
So.
And I mean, to be fair to them, you have no one but yourself to blame because you said recently, maybe I shouldn't have gotten all these ornamental chickens or whatever the word was
Yeah.
because you chose them less for their egg laying capacity and more for their looks.
Yep, that's
right?
true. But I thought out of 12 chickens, even though a bunch of them only are supposed to lay 3 or 4 eggs a week instead of like every day, the production chickens will lay an egg every day almost.
Mm-hmm.
I still thought I'd get about 6-7 eggs a day, but not when they're molting.
Yep.
No, but anyway, so they'll finish that, I guess, and then it won't happen again until next, in theory, November, December. So it should be good times here shortly. And also, they also don't lay as much in the wintertime because the light levels are low. So there is that as well. So I don't know why chickens think they should molt at the coldest time of year. Mother Nature is a strange and crazy creature sometimes.
Silly chickens.
Yeah, but anyway, they're pretty good. They're still, but it's been so wet. We've had the wettest January. So the majority of the time they've been out there, their feathers get all wet, and so they're kind of plastered down, and they look a little miserable. So that's a little sad, but they're fine.
Okay, moving right along, we get to Andrus. Andrus, oh no, you had a gaming question, and I totally failed to put this in the gaming section. Oh wait, no, I did, didn't I? Yes, because it was a gaming question not for Jen, and I have yet to record my own non-Jen related gaming question, so I'm sure I'll get back to that later. But in the meantime, Andrus Honeypie would like us to rank all of our homes, places we have lived together, from least to most favorite, and why.
Well, we have to make a list of all the places we've lived. Then.
All right, let's get out the notepad.
Okay.
File new. Let's see.
Would you say
We've
that
got...
you lived with me at Mom's for a little while?
I don't think so. I mean, that was me just sleeping over on the weekends, kind of a thing.
Oh dear.
So no.
We lived in
So
sin.
there was the yellow apartment, and where was that? That was
On Bothell Way.
and that was Bothell Way apartment. That was the first place we lived in an apartment.
Yep.
2-bedroom. It was pretty nice. And then there was the little blue house.
Yep.
The blue house, I'll call it.
Yep.
Then there was the first house we bought in Burien
The yellow house.
Then we moved to Bend, and so there was the Bend house. Then we moved to Texas, so there was the Austin house.
Now, you did live in an apartment for a little while I was...
But he said together.
Okay.
So we'll skip that. Yeah, when I was in Austin for like 2 or 3 months before Jen moved down, and so I temporarily had a little apartment. Then there was the first house in Guildford in England.
We wouldn't count that house that we stayed in for a month or two while our stuff was...
I mean, that's when we're on the road. I don't think that counts. Do we count the hotel we stayed at in New York for almost a month?
Well, that
I
was
don't
a
think
nice
so.
farm that we lived on. That was just...
Yeah.
That was all.
But no, I would say homes.
Okay, so
right.
Helen's house.
So Helen's house, and then the Riverway house, the Way house. Then there was the Amdina house. Then there was the Swaney house, Xwejni. I can still spell it, house. Mm-hmm. And now, I'm not going to say while we were in Mom's house for a month or so, because again, that was not a home. And then there is...
That was not a home.
Oh my God, that was the worst. Living there,
forget that.
even for the previous time, for the tiniest bit of time. And now there's here. Alrighty, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 houses. 10 homes, honey, that we have shared.
Do we count the bongo? We lived in the bongo a little bit. Nah.
No. I like it in theory, but no, we would have been in there for longer than a few weeks at a time. So, ranking. All right, the easiest thing.
And what are we ranking it on?
We are ranking it on least to most favorite.
Okay.
So, I think for you, your Austin house is your favorite, right?
What?
Or is the Bend house the favorite?
What? Are we? Well, there's so many different...
He said, rank our homes least to most favorite.
Okay, so that's overall.
Yes, I mean, that's everything. So that's why I was assuming. I mean, if you're going to go for England, but if you're going to go for England, mostly because it's in England. I mean, you can't argue that the Riverway house, which is a 3-story, super skinny, weird house, is superior to living to the Austin house.
That's true.
Which was when I was making a comfortable 6-figure salary, and we said, hey, you know what? For once in our life, we're gonna live it up. And we bought all new furniture, and it was like, it's a really upscale house, one we could never afford now. I mean, that place was amazing. The magic light in the evening, all those windows.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, it had fire ants, and you couldn't breathe for half the year.
Yep.
So I mean, I guess it is an all combined. So
well, okay, no, let's just do it on the house.
Just on the house itself.
Just the house.
Just
okay.
the house.
So the Austin house was the best house we've ever lived.
Yeah, and I'd be hard pressed to argue against that. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2 house, just the house.
Well, just the house. Does that mean my studio doesn't count here?
No, I know. It's the living quarters. So it includes studios. See, I would have assumed the Bend house.
No.
No? Yeah, after all that work that was put into the backyard and all
I didn't
that?
get to enjoy that very much, though, did I?
For about a year. Sad thing is, we were living in Bend. I had gotten a huge siphon filter royalties. My reward was I got a big old 80-inch TV, back when 80-inch TVs didn't exist. It was a 4x3 80-inch rear projection TV.
It was huge!
And Jen got a gigantic, huge, was it like a fifth of an acre makeover? We had a whole bunch of scrubby backyard that was part of the house, but had never been used.
Yep.
And so we tore down and just completely lawned the whole thing, and it was amazing.
Well, it was all landscaped. So I got a waterfall
and you got a greenhouse.
And
it was really pretty cool.
Trees where we could put a hammock underneath. It was
But then,
really nice.
fast forward a year later, I couldn't stand it anymore, and we left. I'm sorry for that.
Yep.
So Bend House, not number 2 then.
No, I think England's going to be number 2.
Which one? Riverway or
Yeah.
Helen's house? Helen's house was pretty nice.
It was really nice. But no, I'm going to go with Riverway.
All right, Way House is number 2.
Yep. And then Helen's house was really nice.
That's a house we lived in for like 2 years? Or
yeah, a year and a half or 2 years.
When we first got there, we were renting because we weren't sure if we were going to make a go of it. And we ultimately decided, you know what? We're going to stay in England as long as it takes to actually get English citizenship. And that's when we realized, well, we should stop renting and we should buy. And so we ultimately bought the Riverway house, which is awesome. It's on the river, 3 stories. It's a weird house with very tiny rooms.
Yeah, Victorian house.
And I'm really surprised you rated that high because it's not a comfortable house. Those tiny rooms, 3 stories. The yard is pretty cool, and it's great to be on the river.
And the view and the cemetery across the street is really nice.
Okay. So river.
And my studio's right on the river. I love that.
Yep. Right in time for the flooding. So we'll give Riverway house number 2.
But that's me. Is that you?
No, mine would be very different.
Oh, so you're doing me on one side and you on the other side?
Well, I would literally rate this house that we're in right now as the best house we've ever lived in.
No way.
No, not. I mean, yeah, it is a manufactured home, but this house, it's like we had it custom made for us. There's no, other than the fact, and granted, the overall construction of this house, it's not fair to say it's shoddy. It's just it's a manufactured home, so it's just kind of a little on the cheap side, and it's a little grotty because it was lived in, and we haven't done the work to actually make it nice. But the layout of this house, the location of this house, the forest we live right next to, that's pretty much our own personal forest, for all intents and purposes, because nobody else goes in there besides us, so we can let the dogs run free. Everything about this house is amazing. I mean, all the rooms, your studio.
Yeah, my studio is awesome.
It's incredible. It is the quietest house we've ever lived in. There is no road noise. No, granted, there's some kids. Sometimes they're screaming in the evening, but I mean, it's still the quietest house we've ever lived in. Mm-hmm. No, because I hate traffic noise, and the Austin house was fairly noisy. The Riverway house is very noisy because it's not very far away from. And so I rate that really. I mean, street noise really ranks them down for me a lot. But you just tune it out, oddly.
Actually, I don't mind a hum of traffic. I do mind like individual trucks or whatever.
And the Riverway, it's not too far from a major motorway, so it had the constant 24-hour day just hum. But there are a lot of big lorries that drive up and down that road very fast and very loud. Yeah, and so to me, that knocks it down a lot.
Okay. Well.
But I mean, I'm more sensitive to that. I hate road noise. So that's why there's just no noise here at all. It's just pitch quiet. I love it. But anyway, pitch quiet. So still, Austin number 1, Wayside number 2 because of the yard, the view, all that stuff. I can't deny any of those things.
Yep.
Number 3.
I don't know. I think maybe Helen's house.
Helen's house. Yeah, that was the first place we stayed. It was a 2-story, had a nice little modest backyard, easy to maintain, but it was just so well appointed. She was a single woman, I guess, or maybe a divorcee, I don't know, but she had made such a beautiful house, and we just moved in, had all of her stuff. All of her stuff was beautiful. Right? Yep. Yeah, it was mostly her furniture, wasn't it? I think it was.
It was ours.
Was it?
Yes.
Was it ours? Oh, that's right, yes. It was all the great furniture we had bought in Austin and then we brought because it was still all fairly new. So, yeah.
So no wonder you like her furniture.
I totally go with that. Helen's house, number 3.
Okay. And then I think Bend.
All right, number 4. It was a little single-story, 2-bed, open kitchen plan, and kind of up on a little hill, nice little backyard, but it was mostly a wonderful backyard, and you loved that greenhouse that you had.
I had a great greenhouse. Yeah. I had a little greenhouse business for a while.
Yeah, exactly.
And it was 3 beds.
Yes, you're right. It was 3 bedrooms. Yes, that's pretty rare for us. Anyway, next up. All right, you still got the Bothell house, the apartment, the Blue house, the Burien house, Mdina, Schwaney.
Oh, God, I totally forgot about Schwaney. I liked Schwaney a lot.
The Schwaney apartment?
Yeah.
It was great.
It's what that a lot.
Fans of the show, you know that very well.
Yep.
You saw in the background,
that bumps up.
All right. Oh, so Schwaney beats Bend?
Yeah.
Schwaney beats Helen's house?
Yes.
Schwaney beats the Wayside house?
No.
All right. So, number 1, Austin, Texas. Number 2, Wayside on the river. Number 3, living across the street from the ocean.
Yeah.
Schwaney Bay. Yeah. All right. All righty. Then we've still got here Mdina.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm having to do this because Jen's eyes are closed because her eyes are still a bit wobbly from the LASIK.
I like this house too.
All right.
Put it above Bend.
All righty. Above Bend. Oh, wow. All right.
You're right. There's a lot of really great stuff about here.
Yeah. And if we would just do a kitchen makeover, I think we'd have no complaints about the interior of this house. I know some of the floor is soft. Yes, it's true, but that doesn't affect our lives.
Yeah, that's right.
All righty.
Okay. I mean...
So now we're getting to the tough ones. Mdina, Burien, the Blue house, and the apartment. Are you going to say the Blue house is the worst? It was the first thing we were renting an apartment. Then we got a little house that was not too far from the apartment. It was very tiny on a very busy road.
Yeah.
It was weird, but it was great because we were newly married. It was like our first house together. There was a lot of upside to it, but yeah, I would probably put it at the bottom, quite frankly.
Yeah, let's put that at the bottom.
Yeah, I actually liked the apartment we moved out of better than the house we moved into.
Yeah, because it was a lot lighter and bigger.
Exactly. So now you've got the apartment, Mdina, which was the castle we lived in.
I know, that was pretty cool. I would say living in Mdina.
Yeah.
Bump that up a few.
All right, over Bend.
Over Bend.
Over here.
See, that's so hard. It was so cool.
It was, yeah. It's like we lived in Venice without flooded streets. I mean, we lived in a 2,000-year-old building. Or something, not 2,000, but
at least 1,000 years.
At least 1,000-year-old building, all stone walls, beautifully appointed. It was owned. We were renting it from the Maltese ambassador to the United States, if I recall correctly.
United Nations.
UN. The Maltese ambassador to the UN. We lived in that person's house.
Yep, with his furniture and
his furniture, and it was amazing. But it was also very inconvenient. 3 stories, very echoey.
We lived between 2 churches, which the bells were going
24 hours a day of church bells. The petards, which are insanely, several times a year it sounded like
fireworks.
Yeah,
but they're not pretty ones; they're just loud ones.
Yeah, it sounded like a war zone. A lot, the noise pollution there, and we lived in the biggest tourist attraction of the entire country.
Yep.
So there were constantly people outside our door looking through as best they could our windows into our house every day. Yep. We were on display, pretty much.
But the nice thing was they also had the horse-drawn carriages, so you'd hear the clip-clops.
That was nice.
Going through the streets. That was kind of nice.
You're putting it above Bend.
Yeah.
You're putting it above here.
No.
All right, so fine. So the Burien house. The first house we bought together when we were in our 20s, but off of the money I was making off Nintendo and you were making as a jeweler, we had both gotten big bonuses, and we were like, we're going to put this into a house.
Yep. Well, I sold my half of that business with Paul.
Right, okay, yeah, and I was just, working Nintendo, I was getting, I think, like $1,000 yearly bonus, something like that.
I think it was a little bit more, maybe two and a half, something like that, and it was a lot of money at that time. We were like, wow, $2,000.
It's a lot of money now. But, for mid-20s, it was pretty good. And so we put that into the down payment. And it was a good house. It's also a 3-bedroom.
Yep.
Single story. Nice little backyard. A lot of road noise. Yep. And again, it was like a circa 1940s house, and it was pretty run down.
I think it was a 20s, and they moved it out of the runway.
That's right. Yes.
Airport runway. Mm-hmm. and
they'd moved the entire house. And I don't think it ever really settled all that well.
Well, it's fine. But when we were back just last weekend up in the Seattle area, we drove by it and looked at it. It's got some moss on its roof.
All right, so is it better than the Bend house?
Oh, no.
All right, well then, it's down there. All right, so the last one, the apartment, the first place we got together, nice little 2-bedroom apartment, huge open floor plan, living room, kitchen.
Yep.
Big windows, lots of light, nice views. Unfortunate neighbors who would steal your underwear from the communal laundry room dryers. That was unfortunate. A fair bit of road noise.
But it was also right next door to a cemetery, so we had quiet neighbors.
Yeah. So
I like living next to cemeteries.
Go figure. So you're going to put that above the blue house? Or are you going to put it above Burien? Above the yellow house in Burien?
No.
All right. So our final breakdown. You just heard it, folks. I'm sorry. That might not have been very interesting for you to listen to. I was trying to give you some, but it was definitely an interesting thought exercise for me.
Well, when you were different in that what?
Okay. So that's yours. Now let's copy it and do mine. I think we're mostly on the same. I value this house a lot more than you do.
Okay.
I think, and I probably value the apartment more than you do too. Because I really like that apartment.
Well, what about Gozo, the Schwaney house?
That's what I'm saying. I'm sorry. No, that's what I meant. The apartment in Gozo.
Okay.
I'd probably put this house number 1 and the previous place we lived number 2. Because honestly, while I love the Austin house, it was big.
It was big.
And it was 4 bedrooms. No, it's still 3 bedrooms, but 4 because the movie room was kind of a bedroom, sort of.
And then it had my office area upstairs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I always felt a little ostentatious living there. Like I said, it was the time when we were making the most money in our lives, and we were like, hey, we're gonna spend money like we're making it.
But we also bought one of the least expensive houses we could.
Yes, we could.
We would qualified for a lot more.
Yeah.
So while we splashed out, we were still.
So that's why I'm just saying I would put this house and the Schwaney apartment over it. And then otherwise I think I'd probably be pretty much in sync with you.
Okay.
Alrighty. Sorry if that was really boring to listen to, folks, but it was fun for us. Okay. And next up, what is your most anticipated TV stuff in 2020? Maybe a top 10 or a top 5. Jen, of course, has nothing to say about that.
Picard!
What about the return of Discovery? Star Trek Discovery.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's going to start this year.
Okay, yeah. Well, I'm
let's
not
look.
as... I like Picard better than Discovery. Even...
But you know what's coming with Discovery? Have you forgotten? Remember what happened at the end of season 2? Which I won't go into particulars because of spoilers. In case somebody hasn't seen the end. I'll whisper it in her ear.
Oh. I had totally forgotten that.
That's like this is going to be amazing.
Okay, it's going to be really cool.
Are you not excited about that?
I am.
I'm super excited about it.
I totally forgot about it.
But you know what? No, but there's no announcement whether it's coming this year or not. So, okay, we'll keep that off the list. So, upcoming stuff. I have to admit, I don't pay that much attention to what's coming in the future. But let's see. I do occasionally notice something. So, let's see. What do we got here? We've got stuff I've made notes of to look into. But I don't even recognize these titles, so I can't say that I'm really excited about them. Oh, Amazing Stories coming back. Did you watch Amazing Stories as a kid? Remember, it was an anthology series from the 80s from Steven Spielberg. It was like another story, and they had kind of a sense of majesty. And they were kind of like Twilight Zone, but not creepy and awful, but more majesty and whimsical. It's coming back.
Okay.
So I'm super excited about that.
That sounds good.
Let's see. Oh, and of course, all the Marvel stuff. There's going to be TV shows for, Bucky and Falcon, and I think that's the first one that's coming. So all the Marvel shows I'm hugely excited for, obviously. Whichever ones are coming this year. I think the WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier. Those are big ones. Let's see. Archer is coming back. Very excited about that. Archer is a cartoon you would not like.
Oh, I was hoping it would be Archer the Captain.
No, that would be that would certainly be something. Alrighty. What else we got? Yeah, and so there's a lot of things that I've made note. Oh, Cosmos. Remember Cosmos with
Neil deGrasse.
Yeah, it's getting a second season. That's coming.
Good, I like that.
Yeah, that was excellent. Looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to okay, so I can't talk about new shows, but I can talk about returning shows. Ozark Season 3. Yes, please. And, Travel Man's getting another season. Fargo is coming back. Oh my gosh. Billions is coming. I think it's Billions' final season. And so those are in no particular order. What else? Cosmos is exciting. Oh, Better Call Saul, which is coming back for its final season, which is heartbreaking, but I'm sure it'll be amazing. Altered Carbon I liked, so that'd be nice. Let's see here. Homeland is coming back. I love Homeland. Jen's walking away, even though I'm running out of stuff, so you're going to be back soon, right?
I'll be back soon.
Alrighty. But anyway, I think those are the ones that really jump out at me that I have made notes about. So, but I didn't do those in any particular order. Hopefully, though, that gives you some ideas, Andrus. Alrighty, and now we will move on to Mario. Mario is back. Let's see. In this first one, I don't think Jen has anything to say about it. Do I still follow the Comics Panorama, which I've never heard or referred to, but I think he means just comics in general. No. I was hugely into comics when we lived in Texas, and I continued to follow them in England. And when we moved to Malta, I really scaled back because there was like only one comic book shop in the whole country. And I could subscribe to the online services, but I'm just like, I've tried reading comics digitally, but they're just not great. I mean, I've seen ones where, they kind of like make them interactive, where it like automatically move from panel to panel. That's really cool. But trying to read a full page of a comic panel on a computer screen is just not very satisfying. So when we were in Malta, the only things at that point I was still covering was Saga and Walking Dead. And Walking Dead is gone now. Saga's gone. I was still following some Marvel stuff up until Secret Wars 3, and I hated that so much that gave me the off-ramp so I could stop completely. So, at this point, I guess, has it come back? I don't think, the only one I would still follow at this point is Saga. But your other question, what do I think is going better, DC or Marvel? And I would say I've never cared about DC my whole life. Dirty little secret time here. I've never particularly cared about Batman. That's not true. I liked Batman the animated series, but that was almost in spite of Batman. It was just that it was so good. Batman I've always thought was a dumb character, and the illogic of it has just always driven me nuts. So DC has never been one for me. I've always loved Marvel. Honey Pie, do you have any opinion about whether you prefer DC superheroes over Marvel superheroes?
I like Wonder Woman.
That's a DC superhero. Is that your favorite superhero?
Well,
And really, when you say you like Wonder Woman, you're really saying, I like Linda Carter.
I like Linda Carter.
Yes. So it's childhood, fond memories and all that. So you're not really saying, like, I mean, you thought the Wonder Woman movie was like, whatever, it's fine. I don't think you were particularly excited. You thought, so it was okay.
It was good. Yeah, I liked that they're, strong woman character and all that.
Did you like the Wonder Woman movie more than any of the Marvel movies?
I don't really remember it.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
Sorry.
So, do you like any of the Marvel movies?
I like the Thor Ragnarok.
So there you go. Based on one movie in all of cinematic history, Jen prefers Marvel to DC. Although I don't think she particularly care for any of the Thor in the comic books. So basically, you like Marvel because they're funnier movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, we just watched Iron Man not too long ago, which you hadn't seen in over a decade since it really came out, but we watched it with your parents after I'd set up their Roku. So that kind of refreshed you. How did you enjoy that? Did you enjoy watching Iron Man 1 again?
Yes, I did.
All right.
Yep.
Would you rather have watched it or Wonder Woman when we were setting up their Roku? Jen just doesn't care about superheroes at all, I don't think, is basically what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Other than her childhood, because Thor Ragnarok is not a superhero movie. It's basically a sitcom with some superheroes in it, but they're practically not superheroes either in the traditional sense. So yeah, I don't think Jen is, and you've never been into any comic book. At this point, there's no particular reason for her to read the Why the Last Man, which I tried to get her to read years ago because it's coming as a TV show. There's another one to be excited about, although I don't think it's coming this year. What are my thoughts on DC's rebirth strategy? My thoughts are I don't really know. As you might have picked up, I don't really follow DC that much. I read Crisis on Infinite Earths because everybody did. And I think I looked at the new 52 a little bit. I was like, okay, maybe, because that was the whole point. Hey, get people on board. And I'm like, nope, just still don't care. Still just don't care about any of these characters. Alrighty, some weeks ago on Boardgame Insider, Ignacy and Stephen Bonacor's podcast, they were talking about Amazon and how Amazon and eBay are, or at least they were in one state in the USA, going to start taking responsible for counterfeit copies of board games sold on the platform. Thoughts? Honey Pie, I would say
people are counterfeiting board games.
Yes. Oh, it's if you folks bear in mind, if you decide to buy popular board games on Amazon, you might be getting counterfeits. It's a known issue.
Wow.
Of course, Amazon is really a front for lots of different merchants.
Yeah.
And some merchants are making near flawless, almost unidentifiable counterfeits. Because it's happening in China. The things are made in China, and basically what's happening is, due to corruption and whatnot, after hours, hey, I work in this factory, I have a friend, I'll just take these files and I'll take it across the street to this other thing, and we'll print up practically indistinguishable copies. Wow. And but apparently they're not completely indistinguishable, or sometimes, like Pandemic Legacy Season 1 was widely counterfeited. If you can imagine. That's with all the boxes and the envelopes and stuff like that. Yeah. But apparently that one was noticed because some things were messed up, I think, or something like that. So anyway, if you buy stuff through Amazon, because Amazon doesn't necessarily vet all of their merchants as well as they should. I mean, heck, you could sell your stuff on Amazon if you wanted. And they'll say, okay, yeah, fine, whatever, sure. You might be getting counterfeit goods, which is why you should buy them through friendly local game stores. Because friendly local game stores are getting them through official distributors. But anyway, so... apparently,
that makes me very sad.
That would be your thoughts. That's the thoughts. I mean, I'm amazed. I don't know. I don't think Stronghold and Portal games should be required to replace counterfeit copies.
Oh no!
But apparently, they've decided to take it on and eat that profit.
Wow.
I don't know. What are they going to do? Maybe they charge for shipping. Look, we'll give you one of our free copies. I mean, on the one hand, the cost of goods for them on a board game is like, what, $7-8? So it's not going to put them out of business if but I mean, I don't know.
It could be $7-8 to ship the thing.
Well, a lot more than that, quite frankly, if they're just doing one-offs. And I'm really surprised by that. Of course, I didn't hear the podcast, and you didn't say what they're going to do to try to make that right. But I think it's on Amazon to more thoroughly vet their merchants. I mean, but what can they do? I mean, as soon as somebody's reported, hey, they can remove somebody, but then the merchants will just make a new one. So they just have to be better about not letting anybody sell anything they want through Amazon. But the thing is, that's a cornerstone of Amazon's success as well. So it's an unfortunate situation. Which is why I would say your best answer is don't buy board games on Amazon. Pay a tiny bit more
And support your local.
and buy them locally. And if there is no local game store, then go to Cool Stuff Inc. or Miniature Market or one of the online retailers that don't have this problem. At least as far as I know, they don't have this problem. So I guess those are my thoughts. And Jen's thoughts are, oh, that's sad.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Let's see here. And we're moving right along to Helmut. Helmut says, just wanted to drop a short thank you for all the effort that we put into this show. Every time he gets a notification, he's stoked. Wishes us and Mom some relaxing, wonderful holiday days. This was back on December 23rd. He wrote this. But he has a personal question. He is also stepping up and asking for Jen's Wisdom of the Month.
Oh.
Because we skipped one because there was 1 month
that nobody asked.
where Henrik forgot to ask, and so we skipped it. So now Helmut is stepping up. Don't worry, Henrik is back in. We'll get to one. Alrighty. Jeff says, there's been a recent recurring theme on the podcast of my battle and struggle with health costs and insurance here in the great US of A. Now that he finds his employment coming to an end and he's considering retirement, gasp, congratulations, Jeff, wanted to ask which route we decided to take, if we're willing to share. As he researches this for himself and his family, he'd be happy to share anything uncovered that seems significant with us. This growing problem for our country worsens. Best regards, and big-time appreciator of your dulcet tones and willingness to share your mind. Okie doke. Well, for starters, Jen does not like talking about our finances. I'm sure this has been mentioned before, and she has given me the eye as best she can. It's kind of a weepy eye at the moment. She's deigned to open her eyes to say, but okay. So without going into too much detail, we had, when we got here, a very brief loophole. Living overseas, and I know I've mentioned this before, so I don't think this is a big surprise, we were not required necessarily to report all of our income. We were in the eyes of America, we had lower income because
we had actual foreign tax.
Yeah, we had foreign taxation, so that was able to drop.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't that we weren't reporting all our income.
Yes.
Any IRS agents that are out there listening.
Yeah. I totally misspoke there, but because of foreign taxation stuff, we weren't taxed as highly, which was good. And when we came back, there was a brief window where we were still kind of in that state. And during that state, I signed up on the health exchange, and the health exchange said, based on your current taxable level, you can apply for, what's it called? I forget, a Washington Apple, which is a form of Medicaid. And we're like, yes, please, that's awesome.
That's what everybody should be on.
Yes.
All the time.
And we're like, as soon as we actually report our taxes in America, that's going to stop. So we basically spent a couple months doing everything we could. Seeing about, hey, that mole I've had for years, and and this and that and the other, and so we basically continued to have free or practically free healthcare for a tiny bit, but then we did have to declare, and says America, this is what your income is. Right, here's what we're going to tax you. And in fact, we were really shocked. We got taxed much higher than we expected, and at the same time, we had to switch over to a proper healthcare, and so now, after that brief little window of having proper healthcare in America, where, you have a problem, you just go see a doctor, it's no big deal, like the way it should be, now we do everything we can to avoid any kind of medical issues. We found the best one we could. I don't remember the particulars. It has a ridiculously high deductible.
No, yeah, like $15,000 or something.
$15,000. So we have to pay $15,000 for our own health care before insurance will help us, basically, right?
Yep.
So the one you chose ultimately, why did you choose that one?
I chose it because it had I think it's a PPO or something like that. But anyway, basically, if we do go to the doctor, we pay a $35 visit fee.
To get advice.
Yeah, well, for the doctor visit.
Right.
And instead of all of the other ones.
But that's just for a doctor visit. If we need to have tests done, if we need to have medications or prescriptions, then we have to pay full price for it.
Right. You start towards that $15,000 deductible.
So basically, we can get $35 just to get some medical advice to then do stuff that we cannot afford and we'll have to say no to. That's basically where we are now.
I don't know.
Right?
Well, Yeah, but if we get in a car accident or something,
Yeah.
we're covered. I mean, that was my main thing is we can handle little if sniffles or colds or whatever,
Well, the thing is, we're healthy.
Yeah, we're healthy.
We have no ongoing medical issues of
I mean,
any...
the only time you've had to go to the doctor in the last 5 years was when you had tonsillitis last year.
Yes, I had tonsillitis, and that was not cheap to deal with, unfortunately. But it was worth it. It was money well spent because, oh my God, that was the worst. That was so awful.
Yep.
But anyway, yeah. So we now basically live, I assume, like most Americans, just hopefully we don't get in a car wreck, and hopefully we don't catch something really bad, because we'll have to make a tough decision of whether we just say, well, we'll just try to weather it because we don't want to have to pay upwards of $15,000 to fix this.
Yeah.
And that's the situation we're in. And it sucks. And it's ridiculous. And obviously, I'm sure most people don't want me to go down a political rabbit hole, but yeah, that is the way it is. And
But
yeah,
having said that,
I can say...
well, I'm going to say something.
okay.
I turned 50.
Congratulations. Happy 50.
Thank you very much. And I just got my eyeballs lasered.
Yes.
So we paid for that out of pocket.
Yep.
Because my vision is everything to me.
Yeah.
So-
well, yeah, that was basically a work expense. Plus, I don't think we would have done it if you didn't have that Groupon.
We did went through Groupon.
Yes. Otherwise, you just would have kept on making do with what you were doing. I think that Groupon is what spurred us to action, quite frankly.
Yeah, that's true.
Because it was a not insignificant savings. Yeah. And it's ridiculous. What I can say is Washington State residents, Washington Apple is fantastic. For that brief window that we got to use it, it was great.
Yeah.
We felt like we were still in Europe. We had no worries. Now, as I understand, though, Medicaid, it was a bit worrying because I've heard horror stories that Medicaid does have the right to refuse if really big stuff, or no, they'll never refuse, but if you rack up really big stuff, like a car wreck, or apparently this is most common if, in old age you end up going to a nursing home, they will get their money back by seizing houses and stuff like that after the person passes on. And so, I mean, that was a little bit of a worry in our back. Obviously, not that we plan on any of these things, but, a car wreck could have still been completely destroying us, something that we can't plan for because it wouldn't have been our fault because we're both excellent drivers. But,
And we lived in Malta, so we're very defensive.
We face the worst that drivers can do. But still, there's no stopping. You're at a stoplight and somebody just rams you from behind and crumples your car, and there's nothing you can do about it. So
shoves you into the truck in front of you.
Yeah. So basically, that's why we're paying a ridiculous amount of money every month.
Yep.
You're gonna say how much it is we're paying every month?
Nope.
It's a stupid amount of money. It is stupid, and we get nothing for it other than getting to see a doctor for $35.
Yep, and it doesn't actually accrue to your deductible either.
Exactly.
It's
Yes. I know.
you just pay that money.
In Malta, we could pay 25 euros, and a doctor would come to our house.
Yep.
And would prescribe us stuff that was totally free, or prescribe tests or whatever, and everything was free. And that's the way it should be everywhere in the world. But it's not. So, yeah, I'm afraid we don't really have... what I would suggest is live overseas for a long time, avoid double taxation, and then only come back for a tiny window when you can have Washington Medicaid. And then leave, which is what we would totally do because it's so disgusting. It's just so ridiculous, the amount of money that we get nothing for. But hey, it's insurance. All it's doing is insuring us against the potential of
catastrophic illness
of an engine falling off of a plane and slamming into our house. Right?
Whatever.
So I'm afraid we have no good advice for you. But that's a little bit of insight into our situation.
Well, and it's everybody's situation.
Yes, it's everybody's situation. Well, no, it wasn't Jeff's, because everybody's situation is go back to work and get health care because that's the American way.
Yeah.
Work until you die.
Yeah,
you fool.
I mean, a lot of people can't get full-time employment anymore, so they're part-time or they're
it's ridiculous.
Consultants, and so they're having to deal with it too.
Insane.
Yep.
Absolutely insane.
Healthcare should not be questionable.
Yeah. All right. Anyway, sorry we can't help more, Jeff. All I can say is our advice is stay healthy. Eat right, get some exercise, and be really careful out there on the road.
Yep, because actually the road is the most dangerous place.
Yep, that's the best we can do. All righty. Moving right along to Rachel, who, honey, sent a picture of her pups.
Puppies.
What do you think of those?
I think they're adorable.
It's a big old golden retriever, I think, and then a tiny little, some kind of Jack Russell-y type thing.
Yep. Although I'd say it's a lab.
And the lab, oh, I'm sorry, did I say retriever? I might say a lab. The lab is giving the little one a little hug. Oh, they're so adorable.
They are very cute.
All righty. Anyway, though. Rachel had a board game question. All righty. I guess it was not one for Jen, so I'll cover it later because, again, I'm doing everything out of order. But had a personal question as well. Been listening from the beginning and don't recall us ever mentioning skydiving before this very month.
Oh.
Can you talk about that experience? How did it come about? Where did you do it? If you did it again, where would you do it? And what went through your heads as you were jumping? Okay. Well, it actually starts before the skydive. Years ago, in our 30s, we did indoor skydiving in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I know there's indoor skydiving places, all over the place, but they had one in Vegas. We did that and we loved it. We only did it once. And then I did it once again with a friend of mine when I did a work trip to Vegas years later when we went to CES. And that was really cool, but hard. I don't know if you want to say anything about that because it's really tricky to do.
Yeah, you use muscles you have no idea you have.
Yeah, to try and maintain your stability. And if you can't do it, you just end up flying off of the turbine and slamming into. But even that's fun.
It's fun.
And I remember doing that. The main thing is you book for an hour. Okay, our main advice.
I don't think it was an hour. Maybe with all of the whole thing was.
That's
an hour,
the thing. We were in the thing for an hour, but we were in there with like 10 other people. So you would get to go for
a minute or two,
if that, and then it's the next person's turn. So you got to go like maybe 3 times in an hour, something like that. When it came back around to you again. Our main advice, if you're ever going to do indoor skydiving, they told us this: do it in the morning.
Oh God.
Because it's a closed environment. They run it all day. And if you come at the end of the day, not only is it ungodly warm in there because of all the humans that have been in there, but it's everything that was, it's a completely enclosed tube for all day long.
Yep. And spit and snot.
So do it in the morning.
Whatever.
And but otherwise it's a lot of fun.
Has been vaporized from being
going through that turbine over and over again.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. I'd happily do it again. If there was one nearby, I bet you it's something we do.
We're going to Vegas in a couple of weeks.
I wonder if that one's still open. Because I had a great time doing it. And it was very, very challenging.
And your body hurts afterwards because, like I said, you use muscles.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yep. You don't know.
So anyway, but that was in our 20s. I did that. But anyway, then for one of my birthdays,
I think it was your 30th.
My 30th birthday. Then Jen arranged. I don't know anything about this. We were still in Bend at the time, and Jen arranged a one-day thing. It was a tandem jump, which meant you jump, but there's the other guy.
You're strapped to a perfectly good instructor,
and they do all the work. You're just along for the ride, and it was ridiculous. We had to watch like a 20-minute video, and they said, "Okay, here, lay on the floor and do this with your arms. Okay, you're ready to go." That was it, right? I don't remember there being any prep work at all. I was shocked. We were in there within an hour. We were in the plane.
Oh gosh!
Don't you remember it that way? That's how I remember it.
I guess I don't really remember much. What I remember is being strapped to the instructor in the plane, and he kind of edges you towards the door, and you're strapped to him really well.
Yeah.
And you're sort of dangling out the plane because he's still in the plane.
Yes.
And then he jumps.
Yep.
And you're just sort of dangling there.
Yep.
And he's like, whatever you do, don't pull on this cord. Because, you're going to grab something when you're falling, right? And he's just, don't grab this one thing, which, is the thing that releases the parachute off of his back.
Yep.
But it was really cool. And the smell of air up there is totally unique.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you don't remember the smell of the air?
Well, okay, so my story is I was the first out of the plane.
So
we're going up there, and the door was open the whole time. They didn't have a door on this plane.
I don't think they did.
It was just open. And so it's a weird thing just riding a plane where, the door's open and you're just pretty much sitting right next to the door the whole time.
Yeah, but you are strapped to your guy.
You're strapped to a guy, but you're sitting on the floor. They didn't have seats for us. We were all just sitting on the floor of this thing.
Yep.
And for whatever reason, I was closest to the door, so I was first out. And so we get up there. It's incredibly loud because there's no door.
It's cold.
And it's freezing.
Yep.
And it's loud and it's windy. And there's a guy strapped to you and he shouts into your ear, "Put your feet out of the door." You're like, "Jeez." And your whole body's telling you, "Do not do this. You will die." And the struts of the planes are there. And I remember I put my foot on the strut. Just instinctually, he said, "Take your foot off of the strut." And it was like, ah! He was serious. He was like a Marine drill instructor shouting at me. And I took my foot off, and boom, we're out. And if I recall correctly, weren't supposed to, but we ended up doing a tumble.
Oh, did you?
Yes, we tumbled because I don't remember why, but we're not supposed to tumble. We're just supposed to go up. But I ended up somehow tumbling.
Probably because you're really heavy.
Maybe because
You're a
I'd had
big
my
guy.
foot on the strut. And by the time we show ourselves out, here's the problem: they give you these little goggles. My goggles were coming off my face, and they were not keeping the wind out. So I couldn't see anything for the majority.
Oh,
I had
no.
wind blowing in my eyes at whatever many miles an hour, and so my eyes were just watering the entire time. So everything was just kind of blurry and out of focus, and I was kind of distracted by that.
Kinda.
Yeah, it wasn't until, we only fell for 20, 30 seconds probably, and then they pulled the chute. And so, and then it slows down and oh wow, this is really impressive. But in all honesty, once the chute was deployed, it was kind of, whatever.
It was a nice soft.
It was, yeah, but
ride.
it wasn't particularly exciting. It was just yes, okay, this is a ridiculous height. If it weren't for this thing, I would die now. But we're falling so slow, I was just totally oh yeah, this is a nice view. So it was 30 seconds of disorientation and fear, followed by it's kind of all right. But I think Jen had a better time.
I had a better time. Well, I was a lot smaller than my instructor, so
Yeah.
when we hopped out, and my goggle things stayed where they were. I was
Yeah.
amazing. I was looking down, I could see you guys.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and it was
Well,
just
that's cool too, because I had nothing. All I had was I had no frame of reference. There was nobody in front of me. It was just the world.
yeah,
So I didn't have anybody else to look
just
at.
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, I could see, and I was, very consciously not pulling the thing that he told me not to pull, but I had a great time.
Yeah.
And actually, I enjoyed when you pulled the chute, because then, you get that really rush when
Sure.
stops, and then
Yeah.
you get kind of this nice leisurely. If you've ever gone paragliding behind a boat,
Yeah.
like in Hawaii
Which
or
we have done,
something,
yeah.
it's just again that really nice.
Well, it's very
lovely-
peaceful and calm.
Calm.
And I honestly, I was not that impressed by the parasailing thing we did either. I was like, okay, you can pull me back down now. It's just,
Oh, I think it's
yeah.
lovely.
Floating in the air is somehow just not particularly engaging to me.
Well, we've also gone on a hot air balloon, so
And it's
saying,
yeah, it's fine, it's whatever. It's fine. It's nice views.
yeah, I like it.
Yeah. But yeah, so advice: do not be in the front of the plane. Apparently, let somebody else go first, so you have a point of reference. Because I think it never occurred to me until this second. That would make it a lot more interesting. Seeing somebody else focusing on that must have been really interesting. It makes it more real.
Yeah.
Whereas for me, it was just kind of abstract. Plus, it was more abstract
Well,
because
you can
the other
see.
thing: make sure those goggles are tight. Because the wind is going to try and blow them off, and then you can't see anything. If you ever watch Point Break again, bear in mind that who is it? It's
Patrick Swayze.
yeah, Patrick Swayze. Because I think they were doing the whole we're just jumping. He can't see a thing while he's doing all those flips. In the later jump, you're totally blind. It's just nothing. But you're just stop. Your eyes will not stop watering. So make sure that's on there firm. Don't be the first one out of the plane. But definitely do it, because it was really cool. I'm glad I did it.
Yeah.
I don't mean to. I'm definitely glad I did it. I don't think it cost very much either, right? It was not that big a deal. It was
No,
a
we
couple
were in
$100.
Bend. Yeah, it was.
Yeah. It was a really cool birthday
Yeah.
present.
Yep.
So I would definitely do it again, knowing now what I know. But
As opposed to bungee jumping.
oh gosh, bungee jumping is the most terrifying thing I've ever done, because in that one you don't have somebody shouting in your ear, "Put your foot out of the," and you're like, "Okay, I'll just do whatever I said." There, it's just everybody standing there waiting for you, and you have to jump. It's
Yep.
entirely on you.
Yep.
And nothing will happen until you do it. So it's all of your volition, and that was 10,000 times more terrifying. Even though, well, look, we're only a few hundred feet up, and there's a pool down there. It'll be fine. It wouldn't be fine, of course, but yeah.
I think we've done all of our risky stuff already, though, in life. Maybe we don't need insurance anymore.
There you go. Yep. All right. Do you have anything more to say about Skydiving? Let's see. If you did it, all right. So, how did it come about? Like I said, it was my 30th birthday. Where did you do it? It was out of some airfield, a little tiny airfield
Near
outside
Bend.
of Bend, Oregon.
Yeah.
I'm sure that these types of things are available everywhere, though.
Yeah, I think so. We did paragliding or What did we do for your 40th birthday?
For
Remember?
her 40th, Jen signed up. It's basically hang gliding.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, she signed us up for a course. And unlike the skydiving where you spend a half an hour, you watch a video and you're up, here what we did is we spent all day long repeatedly running down a cow manure enshrined slope trying to get good enough to Oh, hold on a second. Mom's at the door. Yes, Mom, it's okay. What's up?
Is that Daisy scratching?
No. Oh, yes, it's Daisy scratching at the door.
Daisy wants in.
All right. She might knock stuff over, but Jen's going to let her in anyway.
Gonna say
You're responsible.
Okay. Hi, Kate.
Yeah. We're in my filming room, and apparently Daisy was scratching at the door in a way that sounded like Mom tapping at the door. And here's Daisy. Okay. What was I saying? Oh, what was I just talking about? I've totally forgotten. Hi, Daisy.
We were talking about the cow patty field.
Oh, yes. So it was just all day long, running down the cow patty field, dragging a parachute behind you, trying to get in the air for 6 seconds.
5 or 6 seconds.
And I think almost nobody achieved it. I remember I achieved it for a few seconds once, and that was like one of the biggest successes of the day. Because it was a class for people who are like, okay, we're devoted to this, and we're going to make this our life's mission to learn how to do it ourselves. Yeah. It's like, okay, no, this was the wrong class. We wanted the class where we watched a 10-minute video, and then we were strapped to a guy, and we went out and did it. So it was interesting, and we came home covered in cow manure because of all the cow pies that we kept falling into all day long. But yeah, that was not the 40th anniversary. 40th birthday was not as successful as the 30th. Alrighty. What went through your head as you were jumping? I think we've covered all of that. Would you want to do it again, Honey Pie?
I don't think so.
You might want to come back over here and talk to the microphone.
I was just letting Daisy out before she knocks something over.
Bye, Daisy.
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I would actually like to. What is it when you've got the big fan behind you and you've got like a hang glider wings above you?
Yeah.
That.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that.
All right. Well, for your 50th, you got your eyes done.
Yeah, I think
maybe for 60.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Now that we're back in the States, have you been to the movies more frequently? Have you seen anything lately, and what are your thoughts? No. We're not going to movie theater any more than we did in Europe, really. If anything, in all honesty, I am less inclined to want to go to movie theaters in America because Americans are dicks in movie theaters. Europeans are, generally speaking, a bit better behaved than Americans. I mean, who tend to treat it as if they're in their own living room. So I can't really say. I mean, saw Rise of Skywalker. That was terrible. That was soul-crushingly bad. And but I saw Infinity War and Endgame, and those were amazing. Mom wanted to go see Fast and the Furious 8. So I took her to that, and that was ridiculous. But Mom loves Fast and the Furious. I haven't shown her the trailer for 9, which just came out yesterday. Probably show her that tonight. I'm sure she'll be very excited. She just likes big cars. Kind of obsessed with them. So, yeah, I haven't really been doing much, and I don't think Jen's been to... Last movie you saw in the theater was Last Jedi.
No, I saw Newt's Commander last year.
Oh, that's right. Yes, you did. And how was that?
It was good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right.
I just like watching movies at home because you can pause.
Yep.
And stuff. I don't really want to go see them in the theaters.
Yep. All righty. So actually, Sonic is their dog, and this is in doggy daycare, so they don't own the little dog, the other dog.
Oh,
that's Sonic's buddy when he has to go to daycare, doggy daycare.
Well,
Thank you for the picture, Rachel. It is awesome. Jen loved it.
Yay!
Wink, wink to any other questions at Rahdo.com question askers. Okay, moving right along to Eric, who has I've often railed against the stupid Carcassonne rule where you draw your tile. Wait, that sounds like a game-related thing. There's nothing personal in here. I have put this in the wrong. Let's just scan it really quick. Yes, I put this in the wrong. We'll have to come back to that. Alrighty. Need to put that over in the game-related stuff. Moving right along to Henrik, who also, once again, I think this is the second time asking for the Wisdom of the Month. And oh, boom! Hey, Honey Pie, we're done. Wisdom of the Month time. And then we can go talk about Picard.
Okay. Let's see.
Jen had looked one up.
I got it ready. Hold on.
But now she has to wake her phone up.
There we go. It says, don't feel... Let's try that again.
How did they spell P-T-T? Yeah.
All right. That was the pre-wisdom.
All right.
Don't fear failure. Fear being in the exact same place next year as you are today.
Don't fear failure. Fear being in the exact same place next year as you are today.
Yep.
That was a bit of a mouthful.
It
was. Good. It's. I would definitely agree that's good advice, but perhaps you could have worded that a bit differently.
Yeah.
You had a hard time getting that one out there.
Basically, do something cool.
Yep.
This year.
Yep. And I agree.
All right.
And okay, and that's it, folks. Thanks for listening. Talk to you later. Questions@rahdo.com. So long, bye-bye. And now do you have anything you want to say about Picard? Because you can talk about anything you want and not have to worry about spoilers now.
Oh my goodness.
Or I don't know if you even care to.
Oh, I just
other than say that you like it.
It's a really good show. It's instantly captivating, and maybe it's just because we know some of the characters already, but I thought it was really good. I didn't realize they were Romulans.
Right. Yeah. So.
Other than that.
But was that a problem for you? I mean, I immediately realized, they must be Romulans. And here's the deal. They are, there's actually a comic book you can get that goes into the backstory. They are former members of the Tal Shiar who were apparently tasked to spy on Picard while he was trying to do his saving Romulans thing. But they realized, he's a good dude. We're going to stick with him. And so they basically put that life behind. As you saw in the second episode, obviously they've still got skills, and and decided to stick with him because they respect him so much. So that's apparently their backstory, or something like that. Like I said, spoilers, folks.
Well, so the synths blew up whatever planet that was.
Well, yeah, so obviously they were hacked.
Right.
Yeah.
But there was something about trying to save the Romulans that I haven't quite.
Well, okay. So here's the
deal.
You probably don't remember this. The first J.J. Abrams Star Trek, when we got to see Kirk and Spock and everybody young, you probably don't remember this. Remember the whole subplot, the whole plot of that movie is Spock, from the future, old Spock, comes to the past chasing a big, gigantic, scary Romulan warship. There was a bunch of spikes and whatnot. Remember, Star Trek, I think it's 11, which has Chris Pine and Zachary Quinto as young Spock and Kirk and McCoy. Yeah. It's after hours, folks. Alrighty. You remember this movie, right? It was much more action-packed and it was a young cast. The whole plot of that movie starts with Kirk's dad temporarily, dying. Remember, there was like a big warp. We've seen this movie like 3 times. I can't believe you don't remember this at all. The movie opened. Kirk's dad, George Kirk, is temporarily in charge of a big ship. Comes through a warp. It opens fire on this little Starfleet vessel. The Starfleet vessel starts to evacuate all their people, and Kirk's father, George Kirk, played by Thor, is the last one on. Stays to make sure everybody else can get away. Kirk, as a baby, is born as the shuttle is escaping, and I can't believe you don't remember any of this.
I can't believe I don't remember that.
Jeez Louise, I'm going to go to YouTube right now. YouTube, opening Star Trek, I think it's 11. Yes, right here. We're going to watch this. Right, so remember that little tiny thing? This thing came through, remember this gigantic ship? It's piloted by Romulans, and we're not going to watch all 8 minutes. They're like, oh my God, we can't. This thing is there's a temporal thing, and this is the guy from the future, and this guy says, "Where's Spock? Take me to Spock." He's like, Who? Who's Spock? What the heck are you talking about? And this is the current captain, and he beams over. He gets killed. That's young Thor. That's Chris Hemsworth, and he was the first in command. So he says, "Okay, the captain is dead. Evacuate. Everybody evacuate." Oh, he's going to go over. He's going to get killed. Can't believe you don't remember any of this. We've seen this movie so many times. He comes over. He's going to get killed, and he's like, "Okay, everybody evacuate." And his wife is giving birth to Kirk. Girl from House, and he's keeping going, and they're talking. They say their final words together. It's very powerful and emotional and impactful. And, sorry, can't believe you don't remember any of this. None of this.
No, sorry.
Jeez. Well, anyway, apparently we need to watch this movie again because it's so great. Anyway, so.
We're both teary.
Yeah, it's a really good scene. So anyway, I don't know if I should say because everything that's happening in Picard is based on this movie.
Okay, well, let's watch the movie again and it'll refresh me.
Okay. I feel like I should because you don't remember anything about old Spock.
There's been so many times he's been old and come back.
Okay. Well, anyway, yes. In the movie Picard, they don't actually go into it because everybody in the universe except for you remembers this movie, even though you've seen this movie 3 times. We saw it twice and then we saw it once with your parents and they loved it too. I can't believe this. Wow. Well, anyway, the events of that movie are what sets the events of Picard into motion. So I just assumed you remembered. And I guess I shouldn't say it because there's no reason to spoil it for you.
Okay.
Since you apparently remember nothing about Star Trek 11. You didn't remember anything I just showed you.
Well, that was a big scary ship. I remember the big scary ship.
All right. That's what I was mentioning. I figured you remember the big, pointy, scary ship. All righty.
Okay, well, now you guys know what he has to deal with on a regular basis.
Oh my God, I can't believe you don't remember that. That's crazy. I mean, I guess I should know better, but still, that's amazing. I envy you, though, because you get to watch that movie again for the first time. That's incredible. I wish I could. But anyway, so you were saying you don't understand what the heck went on with Romulan. I now understand why do they keep talking about Romulus. What was all that about? Well, we'll have to watch the movie and you'll know.
Okay.
Okay. So what else do you have to say about Picard? Other than you didn't really understand what's all this stuff about Romulus that they don't even bother showing.
I don't know what else to say. I feel like I've just outed myself as a total idiot.
No,
Okay.
You've outed yourself as somebody who has the singular ability to completely forget movies and TV shows. I mean, you just completely forget. And you know, folks, if again, Jen has seen this movie 3 times, and she didn't remember any of it. So you can imagine how some game she played 6 months ago, she's not going to remember any of it. She just has zero gray matter devoted to entertainment. Right? That's really what it boils down to. I mean, do you remember anything that happened in Avengers Infinity War Endgame? Spoilers for Infinity War Endgame. But we're in spoiler territory.
Which one are we?
The final 2 movies.
Yes, of course I remember some things. Like Robert Downey Jr., the thing that happens to him. I don't want to say it.
Okay.
And that some people come back. And...
Not that you had any idea who any of those people were when they did.
Right.
Right? You're like, oh, all these portals. Who are the... Who's that? I don't know. What's up there? I think you probably recognize Guardians of the Galaxy, and that's
People.
about it.
Yeah, those people.
Yep.
Well, they're pretty distinctive. You've got Groot. He's Groot.
Yep. You only remember his name because he says it 5,000 times. You remember any of the other names of the Guardians of the Galaxy? Besides Groot?
And there's the fox guy.
This is fine. It's totally
the big
fine.
Guy with all the weird scars on him.
That was Rocket and Drax.
Rocket, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Nemesis or Nebula.
Nebula. Wow. Okay. Why do you remember that?
Don't know.
Okay.
And what's Chris's the main guy's name? You know, has the...
Yes. What is his name? That's the whole point. What is his name? Seeing as how they make a huge deal of it in the first movie because he says what his name is and the other guy says, who? Come on, man. You know my name. And it's like the biggest joke of the movie.
Yes. Space Lord.
Star-Lord.
Star-Lord.
And then for the rest of the movie, everybody refers to him by his name, Quill, as in Peter Quill. Because everybody keeps calling him Quill over and over again.
Okay, so there you go.
Yep, all right. So yeah, it's a weird. Jen has, I mean, it's fine. Like I said, arguably, it's a more healthy because she doesn't have any of her brain devoted to any minutia about anything related to any form of entertainment. Is it the same for books? Do books stick with you?
Yeah, some do. Yeah.
But at the same still, well, there was the guy and there was the fox. Is that about the extent of the books stick with you?
It depends on the book.
Okay.
I mean, like, obviously, Lord of the Rings, I've got a bit more stored about that one.
Okay, yeah, sure.
But, I don't know, a lot of the fiction that I read, I just enjoy for the moment and then
let
it
it's
go.
gone.
Yep.
Can you name the name of any character from the last 5 books you've read?
No.
Not a single name.
Not off the top of my head. I'm not thinking about it right now.
Uh-huh.
I can tell you, I'll talk to you a lot about glass and different glasses and what they all do.
Yep, and about insurance and about...
things that actually matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's my point.
Yeah.
Is you fill your... I mean, you pretty much entirely devote yourself to your brain. You know, your brain just... I don't know. What does that say? I mean, to me, that's kind of sad. I mean, you could argue it's sad that I devote so much of my brain to all this useless, meaningless piffle. But I really enjoy it, and I feel like you're missing out on life because you don't get to enjoy any of all this piffle. Not in a really deep way like I do.
I don't know.
Okay.
I enjoy it while I'm watching it.
Yeah, and then you forget it, and when you're out the other. The tree guy.
Groot.
Yes, you remembered his name. That's true.
I got that one.
It is literally the only word he says. That's what all characters in all movies have to do now. Bond. James Bond. Bond. James Bond. Bond. James Bond. And then they might stick with you.
Bond. Bondy Bond.
All right. Well, all right. So you have anything more to say about Picard?
No,
Trying to bring this back down.
No, I don't think so.
You were wondering about the Romulan stuff, so we'll have to watch Star Trek 11 tonight, which is cool because I love it. And now I feel bad for actually showing you that scene because you probably would have been, oh my God, I totally forgot this entire scene. But now you know what's going to happen in the scene. But by this evening, you might have forgotten.
Let's hope so.
I wouldn't put it past you. I think Picard is really good. And I really do appreciate it ratifying and bringing the JJ stuff in. I thought that was absolutely brilliant. Didn't expect that. And yeah, I know some people are complaining. Actually, I don't agree with any of the complaints that I've read online for people who just don't get it. This isn't my Captain Picard. This is an imposter. And like, no, this is a guy who is 20 years older. And the final episode of the show, they made clear he had a degenerative brain disease. So yes, of course he has changed over the last 20 years. And I'm glad the show's not shying away from it because they addressed it in the second episode. And I'm sure that's going to be a big ongoing thing too. That he is more tentative, that he is broken down, that he is old man Picard instead of the Picard you remember. And I'm sorry you're not getting just more of the same, which is apparently what you wanted, but I think it's great that they're doing something brave and new and different. And I know a lot of people complain. A lot of people are complaining that, the Federation would never do this. They would never turn their back on the Romulan. This isn't Starfleet. This is make-believe. This is fan fiction for people who don't understand what Star Trek is. And I'm like, have you watched any episode of Star Trek ever? The number of times the Admiralty of Starfleet has done terrible, horrible, awful things. This is not revisionist history. They do it all the time. They're infiltrated or they're selfish or they're inward looking. The entire point of Star Trek Undiscovered Country, that was the entire theme. Let them die. So this is, as far as I'm concerned, continuing a long and storied tradition of Star Trek looking at the reality of what is true in our modern world and casting an unflinching eye on it through the lens of science fiction. And so, of course, it's looking. I mean, obviously, everything is a parable and a parallel to modern day issues with immigration and all the rest of it, and terrorism and the effect it has on society and how society will turn cruel. And I think that's all amazing. I think if Gene Roddenberry were with us today, he would totally approve of using his creation as a means to shine a mirror onto our society. And I think it's amazing for that. And anybody who doesn't get that has never understood Star Trek. So that's kind of my feeling. And I think it's fantastic. And I can't wait for more. You have anything to say about all of that?
I love you.
See, that's the thing. That's because I devote a lot of gray matter to all of that.
Yeah, and it's good stuff.
I know, but I feel like, should you devote more? Should you worry less about the day-to-day of our lives and your job and all that, and really dig into some of these things? Or maybe can you?
Well, of course I can.
Well, I don't know. I mean, maybe your brain just fundamentally isn't wired to categorize trivialities as worthy of neuron storage. I mean, it's obviously you're a different person than me. You had different upbringing. You have different genetics than me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how much is a nature versus nurture? I mean, have you ever in your life been into an entertainment franchise to the level with which I just casually railed off about one of a half dozen shows I'm watching at any given time?
Nope.
Ever.
No.
Even as a little kid. You didn't get into Nancy Drew that much. I mean, you got into Tolkien.
Yeah, actually, I read all the Black Stallion books, so at one point I probably could have been talking about that.
So what happened to that girl? To that little girl who could, you could lose yourself in that world, and you could probably write essays about it. And again, Tolkien at the same time, or shortly thereafter, right? Because you were into Tolkien when you were in your preteens.
Yep.
Really? Because you abandoned it by the time you went off to be the cheerleader in high school. Dan was totally a cheerleader, by the way.
Totally.
Totally a cheerleader and all that. And then, the whole time I've known you, you've always just like, oh, well, yeah, that was a nice movie. And I couldn't tell you anything about it a week later. And, I mean, what do you suppose that is? I mean, you could turn the lens back on me. Why do I? But I've always obsessively, I mean, I think I told on the podcast years ago when I was a little kid, and I had to go I had to take summer break. I decided, I was so into Hardy Boys books, I decided I'm going to transcribe this book that's in the school library so I'll be able to read it over the summer. Because I still wanted to have it, because I was so into it.
Wow.
Yeah, and of course I realized about 2 pages in, wow, this is hard. I'm not going to do this.
That's a lot of work.
And, it turns out there's a public library in addition to the one at school, which I didn't realize at the time. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, so I've always been this way. And apparently, as a young girl, you were this way, and you left it behind.
Yeah.
When did you switch?
I think just the cares of everyday world has probably pushed a lot of that out of my... And maybe I should return to it now that we've kind of got everything sorted. But, I mean, every time we moved country, there was a whole bunch of minutia that had to be figured out.
Yeah.
And
we moved countries quite a bit.
Yeah, so, I mean, my brain's been active with a lot of other kinds of things.
Yeah. But, I mean, that's certainly true. Like, so I'm trying to think of other TV shows that might have made a big impact on you in the same way that most shows make an impact on me. And I guess West Wing. Because you watched West Wing twice all the way through.
I liked West Wing a lot.
But you probably don't remember much about it. It's probably still in one of your... I mean, can you... What was the name of the president? Or any character in that show? Not the actors, the actual president, or any character.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it.
The president's first name is Josiah. President Josiah starts with a B.
Bartlett?
There you go. All right. You had to dig deep for that. And of course, your favorite character, his name started with a J.
Josh.
Josh Lyman.
Lyman.
Yeah. So, but yeah, even still. So that's like one of your favorite shows of all time. And it still just kind of has a cursory bit of storage applied to it. And I think we were really into House a lot as well. I mean, we were really into that show.
Yeah, that was a good show.
Yeah.
But, I mean, that was a whole bunch of minutia about various diseases that...
Well, I don't know. Do you think you're missing out? I mean, I obviously absorb these things on a very different level than you.
Yeah. I know that for a long time I've appreciated books that summarize big concepts for me.
Uh-huh.
That they've gone out and done the research and done the thinking and whatever, and then they summarize it. I like those kind of books. Because I don't feel I have the time to go out and read all the books and, make my own conclusions and all of that.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's just how I've always been.
On the flip side, you do read, I would imagine in a given year, you probably read over 50 books. Easily.
Yeah.
Instead of that kind of take everything in and then it just goes right out the other ear. And I'll read the next one tomorrow night and I'll barely remember anything about the previous one. You could, shift your priorities and all the time you spend on that could be spent more on, I'm going to really get in on this.
Yeah.
I want to watch this movie. Before we watch the next Marvel movie, I want to watch some of the previous ones so I can refresh myself. That would be unthinkable to you. You would never do that. Right?
I don't know. There's something I think that's a bit self-indulgent about devoting oneself to entertainment.
But you read 50 books a year.
Yeah, but that's generally... I do read some fiction, but I also read a lot of practical stuff.
Yeah.
So I guess I feel that's...
So what it comes down to is puritanical work ethic.
Damn it.
Am I right? That's basically what you're saying.
That. Yeah.
That, I don't feel it. I'm ready for the UBI. Definitely. I'm ready for the Wall-E future. That's paradise. Whereas Jen has a hard time accepting it. And so it comes down to you won't allow yourself the luxury of that because your brain could be doing better things.
Yep, probably.
All right. Well, folks, we really dived deep this time. Thanks for the question, whoever asked about Picard. That is not the direction I expected this to go. Hopefully, anybody who's stuck in their 3-hour commute had something of interest to listen to throughout all of this. And I think, unless you have any closing words, Honey Pie.
Nope.
All right, then I think we are done. And as always, questions to questions@rahdo.com. And we'll be back next month. And have a very nice day, everybody. Talk to you later.
So long.
Bye-bye.